After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
The unprecedented became reality at Phillip Island last week, jumbling the standings as much as you could imagine. With Silverstone next up for round 4 tonight, NARL Porsche Cup drivers are tasked with a rather large challenge. Varieties of corners here at Silverstone, technical, punishing, there's everything here in this premier Formula 1 circuit, one where we've seen dramatic and controversial racing nearly every year in recent memory. Hi, welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Silverstone circuit. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV with Zach Murtis on the call this evening, continuing our Formula 1 theme in this schedule. And Zach, Silverstone presents a plethora of new and interesting challenges that I kind of talked about there for a moment. A headline topic this evening will certainly be tire temps, which go hand in hand with the fast, flat sweepers here like Maggots and Beckett's, for example.
Forget the big, long straightaways that are really apparent here at Silverstone. Not a lot of people really know this, but Silverstone used to be a big, giant airport back in the early days before Formula 1 was ever a concept. And when Formula 1 started coming into the more modern theme, they said, let's get some more racetracks. So they started incorporating some of the hangars. That's why we have, the hangar straight. They are the literal airport runways that used to be part of the establishment, as well as some of the other areas of the racetrack also used to be some of the more access roads or airport roads that you use to get into the airport. And I think, Silverstone is one of the more unique racetracks in the world, and we're going to see a lot of good racing tonight.
Well, Silverstone used to be an Air Force base, and of course, throughout the World War is very important to the war effort here in Britain. You're just right. At post-war, what were we going to do with all these airfields that were no longer needed quite so much? Well, let's turn them into racetracks. That's exactly what happened back in the 40s and 50s. Silverstone became a racetrack and has been a premier world racing circuit, especially in Formula 1 and WEC and so on and so forth, ever since. So good to have you here at the virtual Silverstone, England. Let's take a look at the track map this evening, and you can see as well, pointing out the obvious, maybe the elephant in the room here, we've got a new look at Pit Stop TV, a new logo atop the ticker, some new text on screen, and I think this looks really nicely. It matches the vibe here at Silverstone, the nice flowing corners. I think one thing I noticed today, Zach, and even getting ready for this place with Formula 1 cars, whatever, you could turn whatever laps here you want in whatever car I'm racing. I was using a Formula 1 car to get used to Silverstone once again, and I noticed something that I think maybe flies under the radar, is that Abbey, turn 1 on this new layout at Silverstone that has been for I think since 2012 or so now, is a lot like Cops, actually. Turn 1 is a lot like Turn 9. So where you used to go into Cops as Turn 1 with the old pit lane between what's now Turn 8 and Turn 9, I really feel like Abbey, I think, emulates that quite a bit. Obviously, you have a different exit to Abbey. You're not turning quite as much, but it feels very, very similar, and I think we'll see it be very, very similar for these Porsche Cup cars today. The big problem, I think, is getting slowed down, especially these Porsche Cup cars that do not have ABS, into Village, into Turn 3 for the first time, for the race, the lap, whatever, and not locking up. We're going to see a lot of drivers struggle with ABS here today, well, the lack thereof. I think into Village, into the Loop, Brooklyn, certainly going to be some corners we will watch these guys to really have troubles braking. But once you leave Luffield and head around back to that old the old pit lane straight, I think it's very, very fast. We're not going to see a whole lot of braking into Maggots. These guys will use a lot of the friction in the tires to slow these cars down. And then, of course, you have to slow back down on Stowe and Vale. It's very, very fast opposite end of the circuit, so you have slow, kind of medium, fast, and then slow back down again through Vale and Club. A very interesting circuit to bring Porsche Cup cars to.
A little bit onto your point, you're using an F1 car. What are you doing, Andrew? These are Porsches. Porsche. I just had to correct my mom about that the other day. You gotta remember, people, these are Porsche cars. They don't have the downforce of a Formula 1 car. Andrew, you used the Formula 1 car to do testing, kind of get really back acclimated with the track. A lot of people also need to understand, you got to remember, Porsches, like Andrew said, do not have ABS. They don't have the downforce as well as like a Formula 1 car. So going into Cops or going into Abbey, it's going to be a little difficult to actually try to figure out where you want to put the car and where you want to run it, because you can take these corners flat out in an F1 car, but you surely can't do it in a Porsche, as we actually have qualifying underway here. About a couple minutes into qualifying at the moment, we are green flag.
Qualifying is underway, but let's first talk about our amateur and pro point standings. First up, the amateur standings, because first up is our amateur race. Kevin Simpson takes control of this amateur series, but only 2 points ahead of Bobby Flack. It's very narrow at the top, with Milan Harris in that conversation as well, only 10 points out in third. Brandon Louvier is a little ways back in that fourth spot, then Ronaldo Carlos, Chase Wilson, and a few others throughout the top 10. Drivers that are sticking out to me, I think, are actually down at the bottom of the top 20. Diego Eda, Mike Braun, Zach Rose are all very low compared to where we're used to seeing these guys in the North American Racing League standings. We'll look for them to hopefully bump up their results today. And I think even Chris Sanchez and Drew Swink stick out to me as drivers that should be higher than they are in this amateur category. I almost said JP, but Zach. And I think we'll see that even again here with the pros and pro-am. Scott Gimbro, for example, should be a lot higher than 10th in the pro-am category as we get a look here at your pro and pro-am standings.
Well, I guess I'm JP tonight then?
Yeah, you are filling those shoes, definitely. And I will say, I guess this is a good time to mention it, for any of you guys that are out there that have Portuguese-speaking or Spanish-speaking teammates, unfortunately, we can't field those interviews as usual because we don't have JP on the mic this evening. But what we can do is allow them to come into our Discord server and still connect as usual and just kind of give an off-the-cuff statement about their racing if they would like, or they can go ahead and get with us and work out kind of a Google Translate deal. But unfortunately, yeah, not having JP kind of restricts us in that manner. As you can see, the pro and pro-am standings here. Dino Filippa controlling the pro side. Eric Goldner in that conversation. The Ricardo Rico is falling quite a ways back, but that brings guys like Matthew Dench and Lawrence Zavidio and even Giuliano Romagnolo into this conversation, Zach. And look at that, a three-way tie. Fabio Zamperlini, Bruno De Carmo, David Sampson, of course, Samsoid there in the 9th spot. And over on the pro-am side, Ryan Kerr still leading, but Mitchell Johnson and Wayne Castillo are closing. Lowy Santi, Scott Reister with a big jump up through the standings after last week's win at Phillip Island. So, with standings talked about, that means cars are on track and qualifying, as Zach briefly mentioned. So let's go ahead and take a look at the racetrack for the first time today. On track here, first up is actually somebody who's pretty important on Pit Stop TV, but in a different way. The most recent race winner in the MPI Cup Series, Wyatt Brackett, on track. Recently won at Atlanta Motor Speedway this past Sunday, and now going out here and getting his road course feet wet once more. Good to see this transition that a lot of drivers are making between series here on the channel, especially Mario Miranda and Wyatt Brackett here. Wyatt running this evening in the North American Racing League Porsche Cup Series.
Forget, Andrew. For all of our viewers out there who love oval racing and the MPI Cup Series here on Pit Stop TV, you do need to remember the new NASCAR regulations with the new NASCAR Next Gen car. A lot of them drive a little bit newer, like a sports car, so it's a little more of a good sight to see of oval racers coming over to try out things like Porsche or GT3 cars, as we see Wyatt Brackett just go a little wide. It's just nice to see them get their feet wet and experience things that could be considered now similar to the new oval style cars.
Looks like some paints are still loading, so bear with us here as Scott Angela goes up to third on the board and now drops to fourth with Chase Wilson fast across the start-finish line. Moving well up the order, now Stacy Bertrand taking a spot at the top of the order in the 52 car for Rockefeller Racing. So we'll see some of these paints come on in. Some drivers on track, though, including, well, I think this guy is one we have to talk about. Chris Sanchez in car 5. Let's ride on board as he heads down into Vale and wraps up this lap. Vale, a very tough chicane on these cars, Zach. And, it's a passing opportunity with Formula One, but I'm not so sure you're going to be able to pass too much there in these Porsche Cup cars. They're wider, they're more difficult to challenge, or more difficult to race. They have less downforce, less grip. It's going to be tough as Chris Sanchez goes third on the board. Now through Abby again. Abby feels very much like Cobb, so if you're struggling in turn 1, you'll struggle into turn 9. Both are very important.
I was gonna say, aren't these cars a little bit more wider than Formula One cars? It's gonna be very, very tricky, and it's been a lot of speculation in the motorsports community, and not to mention the amount of crashes we've seen. A lot of people have a huge issue when it comes to the sausage curbs. Now, the sausage curbs on iRacing aren't as, well, let's just say, apparent as they are on most racetracks, but with these cars being a little bit wider, a little more challenging when it comes to passing and overtaking, I feel like a lot of tight corners that have a bit of sausage curbs are going to make it a lot more difficult for these drivers to actually make passes, especially when you have big corners like Magus and Beckett's where there is also track limits involved.
Now, Kevin Simpson has been fantastic in this amateur category recently, winning a couple of races, and actually sent me a message because we don't know much about this guy yet. Actually reached out to me between races this week and talked a bit about himself. And his family comes from SCCA and dirt modified racing, even asphalt modified racing, really just whatever they can get their hands on to go racing. The Simpsons have been racing for literally at least 3 generations, and now this guy, Kevin Simpson, is able to come out here and race in North American Racing League on behalf of 2 nonprofit charities that provide recreational opportunities for the blind and visually impaired: Sports Vision 2020 and NBBA.org. You can see them on the side of his number 606, and he splits any money that he wins from iRacing leagues between the 2 groups equally. That is so cool. That is the story you'd like to see here on iRacing, of drivers using what they are just doing to have fun to give back. And you can see the NBBA.org logo there on his nose, on the nose of his car, and the Sports Vision 2020 logo there on the side of his car. So a very good cause here on board car 606.
I just love to see drivers out here with good causes and good things to really just kind of go for when it comes to the aspect of getting promotion and doing anything in the form of motorsports where you can use your platform to benefit others. I know a lot of people that I race with that have a lot of platforms just like that, and it's just so incredible to see as, ooh, he gets a little squirrely, runs a little bit wide, trying to get it back down to the apex as, well, he's still trying to improve as he is sitting 4th on the board at the moment.
Let's ride on board with David Stevenson. He rounds Cops. This is a good look at Maggots and Beckett's and how this will challenge drivers today. To turn 10, it's a kind of turn in, float, then get on the binders between 10 and 11, get it slowed down, back in the power to turn 12, and just try to hope to make these apexes. It is going to be tough. We're going to see these guys struggle a lot, especially as these tires wear off. Now, the amateur race, only 30 minutes, no pit stop involved, but especially in that pro race where tires are going to wear all the way out nearly in 50 minutes of racing, we're going to see these guys struggle.
Speaking of struggling, I'm seeing a lot when we cut to the onboards that a lot of these drivers are trying to over-rotate these cars. It just seems like the front end doesn't want to turn. What are the track conditions looking like today? Or are we just seeing a lot of guys just struggling to get the car load down?
The air temp isn't all that warm, 72 degrees, but when you have sunlight like we've got here at Silverstone today, you've got a track temp of 94 degrees, and if we take the scenic blimp here, we can show there are not many clouds in the sky, as Milan Harris, we were just on board with, goes to 6th in qualifying order. It's not all that cool as Chase Wilson now sets a new qualifying time, best qualifying time, a new pole time, there we go. This is a look at Devin Brock, but it's not super hot, but it is hot enough to be an issue for these guys here, Zach. And the southwest winds at 10 miles per hour not helping things in the aero department.
You're going to see a bit of a tailwind in some straights and a bit of a push in the others. Wait, tailwind is a push. You're going to see a bit more of a resistance in a couple of corners, maybe some of the straightaways with the tailwind as we're getting ready to wrap up qualifying here. I just think a lot of these guys, as the race goes forward, I've always said it, and I'm going to make sure my point's made as much as I possibly can. Qualifying pace is not indicative of race pace. See these guys struggling now because they're pushing. They're trying to get as much as they can out of these cars. And, you're going to watch them in the race. They're going to be a little more lax, depending how we go into turn 1. And they're going to try to keep these cars a bit more, let's just say, on the track as we see the 777 going a little wide as we're getting ready to wrap up qualifying here.
Joe Nagy, one of the final cars to come across in turn of time, and that will about do it as far as drivers with an opportunity to go faster in qualifying. Chase Wilson looks like he will start from the first position to go off down into Abbey and challenge that corner. That's going to be tough on these guys. I really do think so, Zach. I'm intrigued to see exactly how these guys are able to handle it. It's not going to be, I think, quite as easy as a Formula 1 car, high downforce or what have you. It certainly won't be. It's going to be tough on these guys to slow down for turn 1, especially off the start of a race. On a standing start as well, where you've got to build all that speed headed down to turn 1. It's definitely going to present a few challenges this afternoon. Let's go ahead and get back into the sim then and get ready for some racing. On pole, as we mentioned, Chase Wilson, fastest qualifier today for round number 4 for the amateurs. And boy, that's going to be interesting to see. see car 13 barrel off into that first corner with Stacy Bertrand alongside. Starting third today, it's Chris Sanchez in car 5. Kevin Simpson, point leader, will roll off from the 4th position. Starting 5th, you'll find John Kroom and Milan Harris alongside a couple of teammates there for Rockefeller Racing. And starting 7th, it's Bobby Flack alongside Drew Swank, finally back here in one of these North American Racing League events. So car 8 and 88, they start side by side. Then 9th and 10th, you find Devin Brock in that matte black Porsche and Scott Angelo 4. I do want to say Maradness, I believe, still for Scott Angelo in car 68.
We roll through the rest of the field. Starting 11th, we have David Stevenson in the 55 and Matthew O'Leary in the 18. Rolling down the rest of the grid as we're getting ready to go here green in a few minutes. Well, a little bit less than that. Armando Bejaron is going to be in the 05, starting 13th, and it looks like someone took my number. Billy Bowerman is going to be starting 14th, and as we have Diego Erie and Travis Watt, excuse me, I'm mispronouncing a few of these names, starting 15th and 16th. Keep on rolling down the grid. We got Sully Sad. I feel like I mispronounced that as well. Apologies to all the viewers. And the 443 of Michael Clark in the 18th position. Continuing to roll on, we got Joshua Benjamin in the 78 and 19th, and Philip, I feel like I'm going to mispronounce that name. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Starting in the 20th position.
Starting 21st, you'll find car 9, Thomas Amos, and alongside is Kerry Corcoran in the 28 car. Starting 23rd, Wyatt Brackey in the 33, then Joe Nagy in 24th. Brandon Louvier, Ilya Speaker, and Ronaldo Carlos make up the rest of the field as we come down to start this one at Silverstone. Green lights are out. We're racing in the UK. Oh, contact! Again, another lap 1 incident. A lot of cars around. Billy Bowerman, Milan Harris, Scott Angelo, and more are involved. The rest of the field now down to Brooklands here, Zach. That's just, it's painful to see another lap 1 incident, but these guys that are getting through, they're going to make up a lot of points. Side by side now, Bobby Flack and Chris Sanchez as they head to turn 6, now turn 7 for the first time. Luffield, always so tough no matter what car you're in. It's the same thing here today with these Porsche Cup cars.
One thing you're going to see a lot throughout these races today is you're going to see going through these couple of corners, just the side-by-side etches, you're going to see a lot of drivers trying to force someone wide, be able to make sure they can dime in the corner, take that tight apex, and drive off. Oh, I'm excited to see how these guys go in the top.
A good look here at most of the field coming on through comps. Always a controversial, always a dramatic corner in racing. And up front, Chase Wilson, a big lead already over Stacy Bertrand as we run through Maggots and Beckett's and out onto the hangar straight here in just a couple of moments. Car 13 looking nice and tidy here through the fast sweepers. Always so tough in a Porsche Cup car to find grip, but Philip Bedurka, one of those drivers not able to find grip on lap 1, does a spin, and yeah, that move over racing number 70 has seen better days.
There's a little tore up on the left side as we kind of get back to focusing on the leaders. We got to move, a couple of looks, nothing too much. Oh, we do have a little bit of side-by-side action going there into the penultimate corner.
Drew Swank side-by-side with John Kroom. You can see Kevin Simpson, that orange rear end of the Porsche just ahead. Swank going to take the spot back for 6th position as these guys come back onto the front stretch. Chase Wilson, your race leader, teammates with Drew Swank, who were just on board with, across the line. Wilson leads lap 1.
I think we had one car going off track into the last corner. It seems somewhere inside the top 5.
Lap 1 getting wrapped up, and let's go ahead and take a look back as to what happened into turn 1. First time through. We've seen it all too often lately, and it's definitely something that the North American Racing League always strives to avoid, but sometimes, well, these drivers have other ideas, and they try to make some moves on the first lap, and, you know, we see it in all kinds of racing. Lap 1 incidents, all too common sometimes. Here's a look at things. Swank, a bit of a slow start. Scott Angelo goes to the right side, and Angelo is one of those drivers involved. I see a 3 wide ahead of him, and Angelo just rolls into Milan Harris and turns him around.
It just seemed like he didn't expect the checkup, but they were 3 wide. It was something some drivers usually do expect, but we also have to remember a few drivers, you know, you saw a couple of wheel spins, didn't get too good of a start, and it's an accordion effect. It tends to happen at a lot of these tracks with high speed corners, standing starts. It's something you just really need to expect sometimes.
One more look at it here. Scott Angelo, a great launch. Drew Swank, not so much, but you got to be careful about where you put that move. He just rolls way too deep into Abby as there's 3 wide ahead of him and hits Milan Harris there, turns him around. And I would definitely expect a bit of a penalty, unfortunately, for Scott Angelo after that one. Really tough on a lot of drivers here. Oh, my goodness. Thankfully, it didn't take too many drivers out, but it did definitely hurt a lot of days. As actually Michael Clark had an issue shortly after, and Kevin Simpson has just had an issue live. We'll cut to that. Kevin Simpson, I believe, through Maggots and Beckett's here. Yes, potentially. This is going to be cops. This is what just happened. Drew Swank just behind with now a damaged nose. Kevin Simpson in this orange car. Drew Swank pulls up along the... Actually, that's Chase Wilson.
Seem like too much contact.
No. Okay, no. I looked at the number wrong. That is Drew Swank, and yes, Kevin Simpson goes around, just loses grip in the rear end, does a bit of a spin. So it's not as bad as I thought, but that's going to be huge as far as points. I guess he's going to lose in this race. It is definitely going to affect our points there.
Well, I think he tapped the front bumper of the car in front of him. He had a bit of front end damage after he spun.
Might have just nosed it and bottomed out through the grass. There wasn't a car directly in front of him, so I think just damaged it on the land there. As here we go, Chase Wilson, race leader. I promise you, this is Chase Wilson this time. The Swank and Wilson machine's looking a little too similar, I feel like, but Chase Wilson headed down to Brooklands.
Do we need to get you a pair of glasses, Andrew?
No, I think I'll pass on that one, although we do got a pretty good battle back here for... let's see, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Deep in the top 10, Sully Sad in car 79, Devin Brock in car 12, the Matt Black Porsche we're looking at with Armando Bejaran just behind. And Zach, I know you're always new to these guys whenever you sub in for JP, but Armando has had a long career here in the North American Racing League, has always been kind of mid-pack. This is good to see him getting up here into the top 10 and having a good run early today at Silverstone.
Absolutely, it's always nice to see drivers who have been a staple with these leagues running so well and just trying to put their cars in good positions that they can get maximum amount of points. And I look at Armando and I can just see the experience. I see a lot of drivers just taking different lines, different approaches to these corners, and I just see Armando. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He's driving into these corners. He's not exactly the closest to the car in front of him, but he just looks like he's knowing exactly where he needs to put that car to get to the next spot, which would be at 9th, right up there in front of him.
Sully Sad in the 8th spot, Devin Brock in 9th. These guys are just ahead of Armando and battling down to the end of the hangar straight into turn 15. And Sully just trying to shake off this pressure right now. And Devin looking on as we come up to Vale. And we've got a spin. Chris Sanchez around. Went off track, was back on in front of Travis Watt, trying to find a place. And now Watt's going to go for a spin.
That is unfortunate.
The grid by SimLab number 09 out in the dirt. Started in the 16th position, was up inside of the top 5 nearly on lap number 3, and has now gone around and dropped all the way to the 18th position. And that is what we've got to go back and look at. And there was definitely a spin for Chris Sanchez, by the way. Let's go back and see all of this. Sanchez was ahead of Bobby Flack, so this would have put Sanchez 3rd at the time of this incident. You can see he's well ahead of Bobby Flack and Drew Swank, kind of on his own. Really struggling there through 15. A tickle of the track limits there. And down to turn 16. A chicane here at Vale, just downshifted too early. Chattered the rears, spins it out. And this is where he pulls back. Oh, man, what a...
My goodness.
That's a bad rejoin. And the 09 gets turned around by Diego Era. Era goes on by, and Travis Watt ends up having to spin out of all of that. Travis Watt, just an innocent bystander. I got to be honest. I like Chris Sanchez and all, but that was a really bad rejoin.
If I was race control, that would definitely be a bit of a penalty there for an unsafe rejoin. We've seen it a lot in racing, and it's been something that needs to be watched out for. Track awareness, big thing on that. You just got to make sure that when you're rejoining the track, it's we got a spinner.
This is still an incident. This is that same incident with Travis Watt. Just the onboard view here is that's where he gets turned around after coming up on the spun 5 car.
Yeah, you can see he was just trying to check out for the incident. Maybe Sanchez just didn't know if he was coming. Maybe he was just trying to get the car rolling and wasn't looking at the relative. it's always a possibility.
Another issue for Simpson. This is also a replay. You can see Ronaldo Carlos and Brandon Louvier just ahead. Right there is the contact for Ronaldo Carlos. He goes spinning, and it might not even been that big of a deal for Simpson, but you see the effect for Ronaldo Carlos, turning him around in comps. And once again, comp strikes again.
It usually tends to happen to the best of us. It's always just a tricky corner going in. You know, you've got to make sure that you leave space for the car on the inside. It's common road racing knowledge. If you're not fully alongside, it's not your corner. And just going into cops right here. He was alongside. Ooh, I guess.
Rolls into him. He rolled off the brake, got back to the throttle earlier. And you'll have that with the better arc that he had into the corner. Louvier got back on the throttle sooner and just rolled into the 22 of Ronaldo Carlos. So Brandon Louvier just trying to make the most of the corners. Oh my goodness. Bowerman with a send there on Kevin Simpson. That was aggressive. But yeah, Louvier just rolled off the brake, got back into the throttle, and got into Ronaldo Carlos, turned him around. So that's definitely just a driver trying to maximize time, but unfortunately driving into the back end of a car. This is a good battle between Bowerman and Simpson, but I think it might just be about over as Bowerman makes the pass for 20th, and Kevin Simpson continues to struggle. Our point leader now 21st, just 10 minutes in.
You know, thinking back on the incident a little bit, maybe Louvier just thought he was going to be able to do a bit of a switchback, and then it was just car parked on the apex, nowhere to go.
On board with Drew Swank. Just under a half second to Bobby Flack. This is the battle for, well, not so much a battle right now, but the battle we'll call it for third and fourth. Chris Sanchez quite a ways behind these guys, and these guys are quite a ways behind Stacy Bertrand, who's second place. So kind of an isolated battle here, Zach, and no pit stops for these amateur drivers means they can simply focus on maximizing their run the rest of these 20 minutes of racing. They don't have to worry about trying to maximize their fuel potential or taking too much care of the tires. Certainly you have to make sure you have tires at the end of the race in case you have to battle, but you can also use them up.
Well, I was going to say, it's a short sprint type race format, and it puts a lot of pressure when it comes down to points racing, which is one reason I feel for Kevin Simpson just a little bit too much. He's down in the 21st position, and this could be detrimental for him on the aspect of he's only got about 19 more minutes to try and make up as much ground as he possibly can to salvage any form of points he has. And it's a capitalization for all of these guys who are sitting maybe second, third, fourth, fifth, even sixth or seventh down in the points. They have such a huge opportunity to capitalize as we have one car going off track. That is the 102. Billy Bowerman
with problems, and as we take a look at that, we have a pass finally with Bobby Flack and Drew Swank. Drew Swank moving into the third spot, taking that position away from Bobby Flack at Team Empire. Now a battle with Matthew O'Leary, and no, not so much a battle, more so Travis Watt off course once again. I'm going to get a look at where this is on track, I believe. Yeah, it's in the first sector. That was in the loop. And turn number 5. So turns 4 and 5, problems for Travis Watt here. And a bad day getting worse as Bowerman goes on by into turn 6. He'll have to give that spot up, and now some damage to Watt's machine as well on the left side. You can see it there. Let's go back and see what happened.
Struggling on, grip on the track, or maybe just racecraft. I'm just not sure. There's a lot of drivers going off track today.
Well, we talked about it. Lack of grip, lack of mechanical grip, and a lack of aero grip. And these tires are getting hot, so that grip is only going to get worse. As this is the replay of what happened to Travis Watt. That's Milan Harris just behind, and the 28 of Kerry Corcoran ahead. Beautiful, number 28. Harris gets crossed up there battling with O'Leary, gets in. Oh, that's that, I feel, is simply racing between those two. Watt kind of backed up the corner entry to get down to the apex and get a good run out. Milan Harris battling with Matthew O'Leary, trying to run deep to the apex, and those are just two guys racing, unfortunately, as Watt gets the short end of the stick, certainly, and, well, O'Leary and Milan Harris keep on going. Milan Harris now into the 16th position, battling a little bit with Kerry Corcoran, still a little ways behind as these guys, let's see, where actually is it? One thing about Silverstone that always confuses me, I don't know why, but this track looks so uniform now that it's difficult to tell where these guys are on track just from the TV camera. Sometimes you need to go to the onboard to see where they are, and you can see now through Abbey, that's turn 1. for Milan Harris right up to where they had that issue one lap ago.
It's odd to see how some of these drivers are taking, the first few corners. You come through Abbey, you take that tight apex, and then when you come through the next set of corners, you want to stay as far left as possible so that way you can maximize the apex for the right-hander before you come onto the hang straight after the couple of hairpins. A lot of the drivers that I've seen so far either staying far left or, we got a spinner, the Billy Bowerman.
Again, problems for car 102, and he goes off, and he'll drop down to the 23rd position now behind Ronaldo Carlos and Travis Watt. These guys are having some issues deep in the field, and it's not at all unexpected, but here's the replay for Billy Bowerman. As you can see, behind car 09 and ahead of car 22. Ronaldo Carlos was fantastic in the first couple of rounds at Okayama and Circuit of the Americas, but not so great last week at Phillip Island, and struggling again here today, although that is just an issue for Billy all on its own. Whips it around at turn 4, I believe that was, out of the loop, and does a bit of a spin. We'll reset the leader here, Chase Wilson, leading on down into Vale, and we'll see him here in just one moment as car 13 continues to lead the way nearly halfway through today's amateur race. Stacy Bertrand nearly 3 seconds back, and of course, that Pro-Am race here in a little while, Zach. 50 minutes of racing with those guys. Will introduce a pit stop as per usual. So if you're new, if this is your first North American Racing League broadcast that you're watching, this again is the amateur race. There's 3 classes of drivers in this series: Pro-Am, and amateur. Amateur races on their own in a bigger field. Pro and Pro-Am split the second race with a split field of drivers, and they run a little bit longer. They have a pit stop, and that's kind of what you need to know. That's actually a pretty quick rundown of exactly how this series works. Now, what's important to note for that Pro-Am race, of course, they're racing each other for points. So a Pro and a Pro-Am driver can both battle each other. They are battling for those points, despite being classified in different groups at the end of the day. Here we go, Devin Brock back onto the racetrack, just pitted. We should not see any more pit stops. With no pit box time, Zach, that likely means it was a penalty that he had to come in and serve.
Might have been just a pass-through or maybe a stop and go. I'm not too familiar with the aspect of penalties when it comes to road racing. Oval racing, I can tell you
likely
everything about.
And we've seen that in endurance races. I know you've run a few lately, or at least 1 or 2 at your time on iRacing. These guys have, in most road racing now on iRacing, they have a safe incident number that they can hit, then they get a penalty, and then it's X amount of incidents from there. And I believe you have 15 incidents before your first penalty, and I want to say it's something like 12 or so until the next penalty, or even potentially your disqualification from the event. But I believe it's just penalties that you get every so often if you have too many incidents. What we mean by incidents here, again, if you're new potentially, is when these guys go off track, if they abridge the track limits by a little bit, that is a 1x, and that counts as 1 incident towards that total of 15 that I was just talking about. If they have car contact, it might be 2 incidents or 4 incidents. If they lose control, that's 2 incidents. So basically, unsafe driving counts as incidents against you, and if you have too many in one race, you can get a penalty.
As we were just informed, apparently, it's every 5x that you get in the North American Racing League. Every 5x that you get.
No, it's 15 and then 50, and then it's 5. So it's 15 until your first penalty, and then 5 after. So that would be a 4x and 1 off track, and so a car contact and 1 off track, and you have a penalty. That is once you get your first drive-through. So in the event of Devin Brock, he's got to be pretty careful. We've got a great battle with Milan Harris and a spin. No, not a spin. I think potentially serving one of these penalties. Track limits are definitely a big thing here at Silverstone. It's tough to keep these cars on the track sometimes, and I think that's what we've just seen here from Milan Harris potentially, unless he's coming in for O'Hare's.
I think it's just, we've seen a lot of these guys, they're spinning out, they're making contact with each other. I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting these penalties. Yes, it seems to be a drive-through penalty.
So Milan Harris back onto the racetrack. He will rejoin just behind Travis Watt in position 22. Armando Bejar, Joshua Benjamin, they're close. This is for 8th and 9th. As here we go, a send from Armando. Contact.
Oh, it's tight, lock up.
Oh!
We got a spinner.
Came over and hit Ilya Speaker, and Armando will go around on his own here after contact with car 06. And that was just over-aggressive racing, unfortunately. That was a little optimistic, as we might say. I applaud the attempt from the Wahuka Racing driver, but that was a little overzealous.
We see him trying to rejoin the track here. Can we get a replay on that? I want to see this.
So car 05 makes the send in the Brooklands. Battling with Joshua Benjamin and Ilya Speaker. This is out of turn 5. Actually, out of turn 4. Now turn 5. Onto that short straightaway.
Yes, this is coming down the hanger straight.
Not the hanger straight. This is down into turn number 6. This is into into Brooklands and Luffield. A big send there. Really went for it. And then contact where he comes back over into Ilya's Speaker. Ilya, I think, did nothing wrong. And Armando just came back over and got into him. Ilya could have maybe left a little more room there, but he sees two cars go off. He's trying to take advantage of that incident, and really Armando made the move that put himself and Joshua in that position in the first place. So that's tough stuff, but it's what happens sometimes.
In terms of racing etiquette, it is the passing car's duty to pass cleanly. And as much as I want to support Armando Bejaran and just sending it up the inside, he was about 3 or maybe 4 car lengths back. He just threw it in there, and you sit behind them, you see two cars going off track, you just want to run that racing line and take advantage of the situation.
On board with Wyatt Brackett. Car 033 following Joe Nagy, a good line there into turn 3. Well, turn 3, turn 4. Village in the loop, then turn 5 back onto this shorter straight, and this will be where we just saw that incident with Armando Bejaran and Joshua Benjamin, as though a problem for Kevin Simpson once again. It looks like he is turned around and trying to get back on track, and a really bad day gets even worse for Kevin Simpson at this point.
That was unfortunate. I've been watching the relative for a little while now, seeing him work up. He was working on passing David Stevenson, I believe, or no, Brandon Louvier. He was working on passing the 88 or the 888 for 15th at the time. He had been working his way back up through the field. He was 23rd, worked up almost, I believe, 8 spots, and then it's just unfortunate to see him spinning out again. We're focusing on Chris Sanchez trying to catch Bobby Flack. He's about just a little under a second going down the hanger straight.
Chris Sanchez, car number 5, position number 5, chasing Bobby Flack. If you recall earlier, he was in the 3rd spot, made a mistake here in Vale, went for a loop, and collected one other car in his rejoin. That was Travis Watt. But Chris has kept his race nicely together since then and is tracking to battle Bobby before the end of this race. A little bit slow there out of club that time, but nothing that a few strong corners in the early portion of this lap can't fix if he's able to get those corners together. And just behind him, Diego Eda. This is a good driver to focus on, somebody who's had a lot of tough times here in this open to season number 2 for Porsche Cup Racing. Has been great in the amateur side with the GT3 cars, but not racing GT3 cars this season, racing Porsche Cup cars. And Diego's been having some trouble as of late, despite being a usual amateur championship contender. He is just not there. He's 18th in the standings coming into this race, but putting a good one together today. 6th place on track ahead of Sully Sad, Ilya Speaker, and others. So trying to right the ship here, trying to stop the sinking. Another driver that I really want to talk about is actually going to be 3rd place driver Stacy Bertrand here. Zach comes across the line, completes another lap, actually completes lap number 11 of 15 that we're expecting in this amateur event. And Stacy had a great qualifying effort to start the season off at Okayama in Japan, then got turned around lap 1, turn 1, and that's always tough when you begin a season that way, Zach. First race, down to the green flag, into the first corner, you get turned around. That's always going to be a bit of an issue.
But out in turn 1, I'd be a little irritated myself. It's like I was saying earlier, sprint race type format, it's hard to make sure that you want to be able to manage points as best you can. And when you get spun out in turn 1 and you have to work your way up through the field, especially when you're road racing, there's no safety cars, no cautions on iRacing. You have to work your way back up the hard way. So it just can be really difficult when you're trying to make sure you can capitalize on a good points day.
Stacy started 2nd, is currently in 2nd, has been as high as 2nd and as low as 2nd with no laps led. That is just as good as you can get without leading this race. whether it's at some point and then falling back a second or winning this thing. She has been fantastic, just hanging on to Chase Wilson as best as she can. Admittedly, 4 seconds behind now nearly, but also has 9 seconds back to Drew Spank. So a really good race effort so far from Stacy. This is everything she needs in her points championship endeavors, I suppose. Rockefeller Racing has been strong, but always running into some kind of issue. This is a good turnaround for them today.
Word to describe that, Andrew? Consistency.
Yeah, she's going to need it the rest of the way, consistently second or so, if she wants to move her way back into the conversation for the points championship. I think it might have been a little too much loss in the first few races, but this is a good way to start that climb back up with potentially a second place on the way in 6 more minutes here at Silverstone. A really, really good effort from her. Chris Sanchez still working on Bobby Flack. This is for position number 4, as we've talked about. And Ilya Speaker is working on Sully Sad down this straightaway headed to Brooklands.
She's got quite a few battles going on in the top 10 today. You know, it's just so exciting to see, especially at a great track like Silverstone.
Very
we got a winner.
Car 28 goes for a spin out of Village and gets back on the track behind Milan Harris. Look at this group of cars headed down to Brooklands here, Zach. Maybe a pass attempt. He holds it back. That's Ronaldo Carlos looking at Brandon Louvier. This is where the action is.
Carlos just seemed like he was taking a bit of a look. Ooh, we got going wide, side by side. That was so close. Coming down the straightaway, going into Cops.
Past the old paddock and the old start-finish line down to turn number 9, Cops. Always such an issue for some drivers, and this is actually where these two drivers made contact earlier in the day. Brandon Louvier and Ronaldo Carlos. Carlos has made his way back to this position to fight for 13th with the 888. Louvier, I know, has a big fan group. Guys, let us know you're there. Let us know where you're watching from. Of course, a lot of you guys pulling for the 888 as he battles with Ronaldo Carlos now and a couple of teammates behind him. Ronaldo is just ahead of Matthew O'Leary and David Stevenson, Milan Harris there as well, but 3 of these 4 cars in this battle for Muradness.
Those things I love just about Silverstone in general. You just got a good group of cars.
Oh, here we go.
And, we got to send.
Ronaldo Carlos for position 13.
Full complete pass going into the last 2 corners. That was beautiful, a perfectly executed pass. Is he going to fight back though?
Louvier, nothing he can do in Vale. Ronaldo runs a little bit deep though. Ronaldo Carlos in car 22. And car 22 gets the position. So big move there for the 22 car. And that'll work as now 3 teammates in a line. Can they work together or can they battle together? We'll see.
You're in any spot when you've got teammates in front of you, especially when you're this deep in the pack, it would be a lot easier if you just work together, especially coming into the Wellington straight. We got another look.
Oh man, that was on David Stevenson.
He's still looking like he might just get it. They're side by side. Oh, Milan Harris just gave it up. He's going to try to capitalize going onto the Wellington straight. Ooh, just a little loose.
Milan Harris has been winning a lot recently in this series, but David Stevenson, he's got a win under his belt from last season in GT3 racing. So a couple of NARL race winners at least going after it here, position 16. They are deep in this field as this race continues on. We're into the final 3.5 minutes from Silverstone, round number 4. Glad you're joining us today. A big shout out to our partners with the North American Racing League, of course, Virtual Racing School, Muradness, Tan Livery, and JS Consulting. We'll talk more about each of them here in just a little while. Chris Sanchez now a second back of Bobby Flack. Starting to lose touch with that 4th position. Ilya Speaker, 3/4 of a second behind Sully Sad for 7th. And really, the excitement picks up when you get back to where we just were. David Stevenson, Milan Harris, and more.
I would hope you would agree with me on this one. One of the best things about Silverstone, especially when you've got a train of cars like this, just trying to work on each other, going through Megas and Megas, doesn't it just look beautiful to see all these Porsches just snaking through there?
It is a nice sight to see. These guys struggle for grip down there. I'm excited to see how the pros and pro-ams do here in a little bit as Louvier is starting to lose some touch here to Ronaldo Carlos. He's still in the conversation of that position, but I'm just not so sure it's going to happen as we get later in this race. Joe Nagy, though. Oh, actually, he runs deep into Vale. I was just going to say he had a chance on Wyatt Brackett. Now, Thomas Amos will have a chance on him. Car number 9. Strong lately. Definitely strong today in 12th position. Wants to move up one more.
The heat in those tires, Andrew. We are so far into this run. We've only got 2 minutes left in the race. These tires are hot. They got low amounts of grip, and drivers are trying to drive it in deep, and they're starting to lock the tires up.
can watch the shifts here as well. Thomas Amos, the upshifts, the downshifts, trying to find the right gear for each of these corners to reduce wheel spin. As he gets right down to the apex there, and you saw the lockup into turn 4 for Joe Nagy, but it's just not enough just yet. We've got now the Wellington Straight and one more lap after this. Thomas Amos still plenty of opportunities to make this pass for 11th. He takes a look into Brooklands, but he's way too far back, just trying to show the nose. Nagy bites, takes a lower entry to the corner. They continue on into Luffield.
Ooh, just a little bit of understeer out of Amos going through.
Oh, that explains it. Here's Ronaldo Carlos.
That is a move up the inside. He might have just gotten a little bit of a tap, or he might have just gotten a bit too much of an understeer. And the 22 is going to try to capitalize going into Cops. They're going to be side by side.
Side by side, Ronaldo Carlos takes the spot as Matthew O'Leary and Milan Harris makes the pass finally on Stevenson that we saw brewing a little while back as Amos battles back to Ronaldo Carlos, still side by side between these two. Now to Maggots and Beckett's.
Oh, I really wish they would have went side by side through Maggots and Beckett's. I hope we see that in the pro race.
I'm sure at some point we will, as the white flag will now fly here at Silverstone. 1 lap to go. White flag presented by Whiplash Simcams.
Such a commanding lead, too. Almost 4 full seconds. Oh, that is dropping rapidly, though. Relative.
Lost a little time, but he's holding that. What we've got to look at is Chris Sanchez and Bobby Flack. This is inside of the top 5 for the 4th position. Sanchez getting a little bit closer. You can see Swank up ahead. How does this one end? This is for 4th. Louvier trouble. He's got a pit.
That might be
likely a penalty.
Pass-through penalty, and he's going to have to serve it. That's going to be costly.
Sanchez fell a little ways back now. Bobby Flack looks like he can't do anything down the Wellington Straight. He will stay in line. Further back, Thomas Amos, Joe Nagy battling as Ronaldo Carlos got by both of them. Ronaldo now into the 11th position. Can he potentially challenge for the 10th spot on Wyatt Brackett this lap? Wouldn't that be something as your race leader Chase Wilson works through comp, Stacy Bertrand behind?
She closed about a second here on the last lap. We got one car on track running side by side.
Sully Sad, Ilya Speaker. Ilya gets the spot. That's good for 6th. Oh, no, 7th rather, behind Diego Eder. So move Ilya Speaker up one more spot now ahead of Sully Sad. And it's a 3-second deficit headed onto the hangar straight for Chase Wilson. He's got no concern in his mind. Car number 13 down to turn 15 for the final time. And this will be a big win for the Geeks Energy number 13 of Chase Wilson. We haven't seen a whole lot of noise out of him. He's always been in the conversation, though. He hasn't necessarily been leading races, but in the top 5 with his teammate back finally here at week 4. And the Geeks Energy number 13 is going to go to victory lane at Silverstone. Just 1 corner to go, and he'll wrap things up. Solid win for Chase Wilson. Bertrand across the line will take 2nd. It's going to be a long time before Drew Swank comes down to the start-finish line to finish 3rd. There's Drew Swank, Bobby Flack, Chris Sanchez in order. Diego Eda hanging on to the 6th spot. Then Ilya Speaker and Sully Sad as they battle. Joshua Benjamin, Wyatt Brackett will wrap up the top 10, but maybe not. Wyatt Brackett with a challenge here from Ronaldo Carlos. The final opportunity for car 22 to get this spot.
Side under braking, going to try the switchback, but he's not going to be able to get there. Wyatt Brackett is going to take that last spot right there in the top 10 with a P10 finish. And Ronaldo Carlos is going to round out in 11th, not able to get there for that 10th place spot.
Great battle there for 10th. You see more cars across the line and more cars in the pit lane serving penalties. I believe one of those was Matthew O'Leary. I'm not sure on the other one. It might have been Milan Harris.
Do we know how that's going to affect
they will
results?
likely be dropped to the back end of the order. They will likely lose credit for this final lap of racing because they did not complete the full trip through the pit lane before they technically took checkers. So I really would have to imagine that those 2 drivers that were on the pit lane just now, one of them again being Matthew O'Leary, I believe the other one, or no, I think David Stevenson potentially, and I'm not sure, we'll find out. But I believe those 2 drivers, one of them was a Radness car, one of them wasn't, will likely be dropped to the end of the order here of the lead lap cars. We'll wait for Philip Bedurka to come across. And yes, Milan Harris and Matthew O'Leary did not serve the penalty the way they should have. Well, because they probably got it on the last lap and they couldn't serve it completely right. So they are dropped to 22nd and 23rd, respectively, from Milan Harris and Matthew O'Leary. That is crushing, I know, but that's the way penalties work on iRacing. You didn't get the full trip down the pit lane. It wasn't the full extent of the penalty, so they do get dropped to the end of the lead lap. And, man, that is tough. Unofficial race results, though, after the amateur race here at Silverstone. Here we go. Chase Wilson gets the win. And this is big, I think, again, for the Geeks Energy squad with Chase and Drew Swank. This is big for these guys. Get some team points flowing in their bloodstream. This is going to be big for cars 13 and 8 for the rest of the season. Stacy Bertrand notches a second-place finish for Rockefeller Racing. Drew Swank completes your podium in the amateur race. Bobby Flack goes fourth. Chris Sanchez fifth. Diego Eda there in the sixth spot. Then Ilya Speaker, Sully Assad, Joshua Benjamin, and Wyatt Brackett will just hang on for the top 10.
Moving outside the top 10, we have Ronaldo Carlos rounding out in 11th, coming down the running order. Outside of the top 10, we have Joe Nagy in 12th, Thomas Amos rounding out in 13th, David Stevenson in the 55 and 14th, Kerry Corcoran in 15th, Travis Watt in 16th, Devin Brock in 17th, and Kevin Simpson, happy to see those penalties. He moves up into the 18th spot after spinning twice. Scott Angelo in 19th, and Brandon Louvier rounding out in 20th position.
Finishing 21st, you'll find Armando Bejaran after that incident into Brooklands and Luffield. Milan Harris goes 22nd, Matthew O'Leary 23rd, Philip Bedurka 24th, and then the few cars that went one lap down or more. Michael Clark in 25th, Billy Bowerman 26th, and John Kroom taken out early finishes in the 27th position. Again, Milan Harris, Matthew O'Leary, those cars that were on the pit lane assessed a time penalty after the drop of the checkers, and they will drop down, well, outside the top 20. Killer for both of those, especially Milan Harris, who I do believe won last week at Phillip Island and potentially the week before at Coda. Milan might not have won, but I know he was in the conversation. I know he won Coda. So two really good drivers getting really poor results at the end of the day as a result of those penalties. Chase Wilson wins here at Silverstone. Let's bring in driver of the 13. I believe this would be Chase. Chase, is you?
Yep, this is me. How are you guys?
Well, we're doing pretty good, but I think you're doing a whole lot better. 15 laps led from the pole. The Geeks Energy squad is here.
Yeah, first and third, my teammate Drew fought back from a little further back in the pack. Really just the focus for us was not such a great week. Obviously we did get someone winning, but there was a punt on my end last week, so I just put the nose to the grindstone, wanted to come out this week strong, and luckily made it through the first corner and pulled a little gap and was able to hold the lead the rest of the race, but Stacy was keeping me honest out there.
Yeah, she fell back, but never too far back. What's that like as a leader to see that driver just always hanging on and knowing that if you make one mistake, maybe two mistakes, you're going to have trouble?
I mean, she was in the one mistake range, especially at a track like Silverstone where you can just kind of get lost on the outside of the track. So definitely sweaty palms going through the last couple sectors of the circuit near the end of the race. The tires were starting to go, and it seemed like Stacy was able to keep her tires a little bit better than mine. But just that little bit of a gap in front kept her out of the draft and let us come home in first today. So it's a good day for the Geeks Energy Sim Racing squad.
And, you know, we theorized a little bit about the difference, or I guess about the troubles that we would see with hot tires here at a relatively hot Silverstone. It's not that warm, but it's warm enough to bring that into the conversation. Did you see any notable fall off of the tires in 30 minutes, or was it mostly about as you would expect?
It was as I expected in testing. The track was a little bit warmer than I expected today, so right around lap 7, I started locking my front right into turn 4, and it was just a never-ending battle trying to keep that tire from not locking. So anyone who was able to keep themselves with fresh tires was in a really good position today.
Well, there you go. Chase Wilson wins things here at Silverstone. Congratulations, buddy. 15 laps led. Perfect race for you. We'll talk to you next week at Montreal.
Sounds good. See you guys next week.
Chase Wilson with a big race win. We'll move things over to the second place finisher and Stacy Bertrand. Zach here is driver of the 52.
No room to go into the
See, Bertrand, this is Zach Murders, Pit Stop TV. How you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
We're doing great up in the booth, but how about yourself? Who's across the board? You started second, you ran, you finished second. How does that feel to have that consistency here at Silverstone?
Oh man, after what happened last week, woo, I needed to redeem for all the girls out there, all the girl racers out there, you know. And then, I owe it to the Rockefeller Racing team too, because we train real hard together. And, I've had a long time relationship with Porterfield Brakes, which is one of my sponsors. And I had so much fun out there today.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I do want to ask you when it comes to how the racing was today with Silverstone, we saw a lot of drivers struggling with handling issues and high track temperature and just making sure that the tires were still good towards the end of the race. So just talk us through your tire management and, just how everything played out for you when it came to the race strategy.
Well, it's very true with the tire management for these kind of tracks where there's a lot of high speed is in the slow sections not to overcook it. So for like 2 laps in the beginning, I was running a more forward brake bias and giving my rears a chance to warm up naturally, and then changed it. And then if I was getting a little too loose, I would also change it again, the brake bias. But it was just managing the throttle, being really smooth on the inputs, smooth turns, smooth on the throttle, not getting too aggressive on the braking. If it started to lock up, just move the braking point back about another 2 feet, and it's like, just got to manage those tires because they got to last the 30 minutes, man.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on your second place finish, and we look forward to seeing your run in Montreal.
Thanks, guys. And I didn't get the curse this time. The commentator curse.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys. That was an awesome one.
No problem. And then, Andrew, who do we have coming up next?
That's it, actually. Just the top 2 drivers. Stacey Wilson or Stacey Bertrand, rather, talking about that commentator's curse. We've had that many times. It seems like you take JP out of the equation and we don't have that curse all of a sudden. But no, I do hope we get JP back next week. I know he was on his way home, just didn't quite make it in time. Hopefully his travels were nice and safe. Got home at least safely. If not on time, we'll have him back from Montreal next week. But Stacey Bertrand finishes things up for our top 2 drivers, and that's it for race number 1, the amateur race this evening. And Zach, the weather at the end of that one, well, we can see the track temp went up that little bit extra to 96 degrees Fahrenheit. So things to watch for, that is number 1 as we go into the Pro-Am race here in just a few. In case this is it, in case you're done for the day, well, make sure you tune in for these upcoming broadcasts here on Pit Stop TV. Sunday night, it's the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the MPI Cup Series, Lobster Country up in New Hampshire, as these guys will be barreling off into turns number 1 and 3 at nearly 160 miles an hour, potentially, in those NASCAR Gen 7 vehicles. The speeds are high despite being low banking, really, really flat here at the Magic Mile. Then Wednesday, we've got the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That's going to be a lot of fun with NASCAR Gen 7 vehicles for the Outlaws Sim Series. 2 wildly different racetracks for the next 2 NASCAR-style races we have on the channel with the MPI Cup Series and the Outlaws Sim Series. Then next week, Thursday evening, at 8:30 Eastern, of course, we have amateur, then Pro-Am racing for the North American Racing League from Montreal, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, 1 week from today. And Zach, there's plenty of places to tune in with Pit Stop TV and check out everything we've got to offer, and those are listed at the bottom.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen for the MPI Cup Series, because for those who don't know, Andrew, you and I had already talked about it, I'm going to be up in the booth for the MPI Cup Series, so I hope everyone's going to be able to tune in on Sunday and catch some great racing from New Hampshire.
So that will do it for the amateur set of action here this evening at Silverstone. Make sure to stay with us here for just a few more moments, and we'll be right back with Pro-Am coverage from Silverstone. This is round number 4, and we'll be right back for this quick intermission here at Pit Stop TV.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Absolutely, as now we see the drivers make their way into the pit boxes. Dobbs, Robertson, Kinder, Barlow going to go all through 4 of them and take his place on the first pit stall. Wide bracket falling in behind, as now we wait to see these 4 tires and fuel and who's going to be able to win off pit road first. Adam Lancaster drops the jack first. Alan Dobbs is going to get off away early, as Lancaster is going to jump all the way up to 3rd with that, almost beat Robertson, and they make contact, and that is not what you want to see. That might be a pit exit violation on 28, but that is a very devastating blow to number 2 car. You got to hope he didn't get too much damage out of that, but that was a hard hit to the inside wall.
Down the straightaway, we'll get a replay here and show you that one again. That car was really consistent and really strong. I was thinking Robertson was going to be a big factor in the finish of this race. You see Adam Lancaster and Brandon Robertson coming out side by side from the exit of the pit lane, and there was for the completion of 4 fresh tires on that machine. Dobbs got him out of the pit lane, no question about that, but Lancaster got a really great pit stop, came out beside him, and just trying to have enough room between both himself and the wall and himself and Lancaster. Obviously, he misjudged how much room he had to his right side and just clipped that wall. Unfortunately, that's going to be a big blow for Brandon Robertson, but he should be able to get that car fixed up, and maybe before we even get back to green flag racing, get it back on the grid.
So getting on pit lane is going to matter a lot. Getting off of pit lane is going to matter a bunch as well. And we also see that margin from 2nd and 3rd starting to close up on the race leader, Jesse Webb. We were talking about the headlights. He was making good use of them there, trying to warn, oh, trouble in front of him. Look out, that's right in front of the leader. He somehow gets by after the 2 lap cars.
Welcome back to the virtual Silverstone circuit as pro qualifying is underway. missed a little bit of it, but that was a bit of I guess a session issue for just a moment, or at least us switching sessions now into the Pro-Am race. Let's get right into it, though. Down trackside, qualifying underway, you can see Victor Miranda goes to the top of the board, and car 1 is always quick here in the North American Racing League, but definitely showing why he is a former champion and the reigning champion here in the North American Racing League Porsche Cup Series. The number 1, just always where he needs to be. Victor Miranda, a lot of speed. Dino Filippa out there in car 71, also looking good, about a half second off though, so definitely a big separation from first to second as we get back into things. And Zach, the track temp in this one, let's check it out. Right about the same. I mean, just about as equal conditions as you could possibly draw up for these guys.
Now, one thing I do want to bring up when it comes to the race, considering track conditions are just about the same, I want to bring up the point that Stacy made when she was talking to us in her post-race interview. She was adjusting the brake bias throughout the course of the race. You're going to see a lot of these drivers doing the same thing they did in the amateur race, maybe doing a little bit of late sends, locking up the brakes. I'm interested to see how these drivers are going to adjust their car setups. It is a fixed setup, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
For the amateur. These guys have open setups, but they have the same VRS setup provided to them by Virtual Racing School that they can use as a baseline. So these guys get a little more freedom. That's why we see some more team domination here in the Pro-Am race. That is a big key difference, as Scott Reiser is once again, excuse me, once again our top Pro-Am driver. The second Pro-Am driver in our listing, Wayne Castile in car 3.
VRS, one of the partners here with the North American Racing League. It's just going to be interesting to see then if they're open setups, there's going to be a lot more changes that these drivers can make with their cars. Now, there isn't too much that you can do when it comes to an in-car adjustment, but these guys do have a pit stop, and they can make a couple of pit stop adjustments to kind of adjust the car to work with the track conditions to see how they're going to be able to handle it and make it maybe better to be able to kind of help with the longer race that they'll be experiencing tonight.
There's really not much they can do. One of the big things would be tire pressure, but we don't anticipate tire changes in this 50-minute race. That's very much unheard of in this short of a race. Usually if you go over an hour, you start to get to that area where you can go ahead and take tires, but GT tires usually are used for a minimum of a 1-hour stint, and it's just really not very common to see a tire change in a 50-minute race. As Bruno DeCarmo puts time down, we'll see what he can do when he gets back around to the start-finish line. He's just now out of Cops. While we have the moment, let's talk about our point standings here for the pros and Pro-Ams. Once again, Zach and Dino Filippa on way potentially to a championship. I don't see Eric Goldner in the conversation this evening. Now, these guys do get a couple of drops this season. That's going to help them, but Eric Goldner not being here, I think, is a big blow to his at least early season standings.
You got to think too, drop races, for those who don't know, drop races, you are able to drop your worst finish out of your season and it goes away against your points total. And with one driver not showing up to a race, he gets a 0-point total, which means his drop race is effectively 0, and it will potentially affect his point standings as we're getting ready to wrap up qualifying here.
Bruno DeCarmo coming down to the start-finish line. Let's see if he can get a lap in. And I'm not so sure. It's going to be close as, that's some track limits. He gets across the line, but the time does not count. Looks like he will start 18th or maybe even 19th position here for the Pro-Am race. Let's go ahead and meet our starting grid. On pole, car number 1 from position number 1, Victor Miranda, reigning champion, will start this race for the rest of the field. Dino Filippo will start from the second place, and starting third, you'll find Nicolas Rubilar in car number 77. Good to see him back in the field this evening. Ricardo Rico starts from fourth tonight, and starting fifth, you'll find Fabio Zamperlini, a former GT3 champion here in the North American Racing League, alongside Roger Resende in car 69. Your Pro-Am pole sitter, that's Scott Reiser in car 42. Good to see him with a good qualifying effort today, backing up his win last week at Phillip Island. And starting 8th, it's Matthew Dench, the Australian himself, in car 283. To wrap up your top 10, it's Lawrence Zavadiel in car 24 and Wayne Castile in car number 3, the second of the Pro-Am competitors. Starting 11th, you'll find Miguel Colon, actually. I don't really know how to. I'm going to go with Colon. potentially here for Car 87. There's a few different things it could sound like. Miguel starts from the 11th position. Rafael Bonifacio from 12th in car 121, and starting 13th, Ryan Kerr, another Australian in the field, another top Pro-Am competitor. Trey Jawhorn starts from the 14th position this evening, and to round out your top 15 is Luan Hott alongside Mitchell Johnson, and just ahead of Lucas Souza, Bruno De Carmo, and even Thomas Rayleigh, starting from the 19th position this evening. So as we await the start of the Pro-Am race, this is going to be a fun one, a very fun one. Scott Reister, I think, one of the big drivers to watch in this one. I know he's not exactly keen to Silverstone, doesn't think that he's going to have the same pace that he had last week at Phillip Island, but I really think you've got to watch that 42 car in this 50-minute race in that Pro-Am category. Wayne Castile, of course, will also be one to watch for in car number 3 for Moradness. And, of course, at the front of the board, Zach, you've got Dino Filippa, you got Victor Miranda, Nicholas Rublar, and just the entire front starting order for the pros and Pro-Ams, or for the pros, is going to be fun to watch. Red lights on, green lights is on the way, and green lights are on here at Silverstone down to turn 1. Oh, and already a lap 1 incident. Ryan Kerr, Miguel Colon off the track. 2 cars started from the pit lane. Those are Bruno De Carmo and Thomas Rayleigh. They pass those crashed cars as our leaders work through turn 4. Another spin. Wayne Castile around in car 3. Brooklyn's left field now for the race leaders. Lap 1 well underway now. Dino Filippa trying to find a way by. Victor Miranda defending as we head through turn 7. Now turn 8, Zach. We're coming up to Cops for the first time. What do these guys do?
Just keep a single file, if you ask me. It's lap 1. Keep the car clean as we see them going into Cops, and they are just so tight, hitting that apex just perfectly. As we're getting ready to come into Maggots and Beckett's, they're just staying single file. We got a couple of cars just trying to make sure they don't exceed track limits, and they are just staying relatively single file and a little spread out for the most part.
Through Maggots and Beckett's, these fast sweepers, long sweepers as well, long and windy corners, always so tough no matter the machinery. This evening, Porsche GT3 Cup cars, and it's tough.
And you saw there coming out of Maggots and Beckett's, we had the second place car running just a little wide.
That was Dino Filippa, point leader over Ricardo Rico and Eric Goldner. Eric Goldner not here this evening, so a few drivers electing for Silverstone to be a default drop for them. Boy, that's a good view. Saw Lawrence Zaviel going for a move. The car right in the middle of the field, actually. A small field this evening for the pros programs as we bring up our ticker on the left side of the screen. Lawrence Zaviel now with Sim City Racing, I believe. Yes, Sim City Racing SCR, a new black and neon yellow 24 car. He chases down Scott Reister. Lawrence has gone through a bit of a team change lately, now picking up with these guys after a 1-week stint with no team last week at Phillip Island. Good to see him landing here with SCR, one of the, I think, stronger teams within the North American Racing League. They don't really run for points very often. This is their first point racing effort, actually, that I'm aware of. Jason Allen and those guys have a fantastic endurance program that has recently bled over into the NARL, particularly with NARL Cash Days at Watkins Glen back in May. Good to see now an inclusion here in points racing. Hopefully we see more of those guys in the GT3 season as Reister steps out under braking there into Brooklands and gives up that spot.
Just an easy move for Lawrence Zaviel to be able to take that spot away. He just swoops in, takes the racing line, and is able to just drive away going down the hanger straight.
Not quite the hanger straight yet. That's out of Maggots and Beckett's further along as they head down the old, I guess, home straight, the old start-finish straight, if you will, and Victor Miranda leads things.
You know what I need to do? I just need to pull up a track map for myself because I'm just mixing up every single straight and corner.
Watching Fabio Zamperlini and Nicolas Rubelar. This is for 4th. Resende just behind. Resende is a teammate to Victor Miranda leading this race, and we'll see if Roger can get up there and potentially get in the line with Victor later on. But for now, mired in the 6th position, chasing a former GT3 champion here in the North American Racing League, Fabio Zamperlini.
thing you do tend to notice sometimes when it comes to road racing. A lot of these guys are not afraid to just kind of take that line away, especially when it comes to coming out of the corners. You just see guys that get right there on the bumpers with each other. They're not afraid to just show a little bit of the nose, but they won't be able to take that spot if they're not there.
On board with Roger as we come around to complete lap number 2. Victor Miranda, fastest lap, 2:02.689. We'll see a lot more of that, I think, throughout the course of the evening. Now, Wayne Castile was one of those drivers swept up on lap number 1. That number 3 car looks pretty okay. Has not yet seen a trip down the pit lane. Neither has Ryan Kerr, a couple of Maradna's teammates involved in lap 1 shenanigans. Let's take a look back and see if we can find out what happened to them early on in this one. I have to go quite a ways back, actually, to find exactly what went on, but issues in the first lap, no stranger, unfortunately. This is when Ryan was getting ready to drop the clutch. You can see full rev lights there. Goes to the left side of one car. That's the 87 of Miguel Colon. And this is down to turn 1. What goes on? This is the onboard with Ryan Kerr. Blindsided, wow.
Just couldn't see anything coming. He just pretty much was just trying to take the corner as normal, and you see a rear end coming at your front. It's not exactly the best sight to see.
No, it's not. So we'll get one more look at things at least. Potentially even more, as this is what goes on here on the first lap of racing in our Pro-Am race. Bit of a blink there for Ryan on the grid, but then things are off, and this is the rundown of the first corner.
Oh, they were 3 wide.
Yeah, there was one car on the inside. San Miguel gets turned around and shot over. I believe that was Rafael Bonifacio that made contact with Miguel Colon there to turn 1.
Just the same thing that we saw in the amateur race, just a 3 wide incident going into turn 1, lap 1. It usually never really ends well. The only difference is the car on the inside in the amateur race, they decided to back out. That was Milan Harris, I believe, and you see this 3 wide incident. The cars did not back out, and Miguel Colon just, I don't think he saw the car on his inside. He just turned to make the corner. There he went.
Turned in a little bit, and Rafael was there, and those cars go off spinning. You can see the rest of the field continue on, so a small incident, I think, all things considered, being the first corner of the first lap, but still not at all good for those guys swept up in things on lap number 1. Now, as we roll on, race leader Victor Miranda, for a moment, took the fastest lap once again. Then Dino Filippo went a little bit faster. Car 71 starting to come into his own and use that draft ahead. We will definitely see these guys using the slipstream today. We always see it for fuel savings, and we're seeing it a bit more.
One thing you're also going to see when it comes to cars following, you're going to see people like Daniel Filippo, who is trying to catch Victor Miranda for the lead. He's taking a bit of different entries, especially in the low-speed corners. Now, aero isn't exactly the biggest deal when it comes to the low-speed corners, but it does help to try a different line, try to get offset from the car you're following, and just try to be able to rotate through these corners a little bit better. As you see, Filippo is catching on entry, and Miranda is trying to pull away on exit and try to capitalize and really break that toe so he can just be able to drive away and extend the lead further.
Still on board with Dino as we head down to Cops. Really fast on edge. These guys especially trying to use as much of the curving on the inside of the apex and then again on the outside of the runoff. Trying to use all the track and then some to maximize speed. Now into Maggots and Beckett's. Also tough. Trying to get as far over on the curving without getting an off track or getting off the track and getting into that dirt. That'll always be an issue if you do clip the inside a little too much there. And even just going over the bumps there are tiny anti-cuts through Maggots and Beckett's, and that could definitely be a detriment to your day, as now you see some swerving down the hanger straight.
Just snaking a little bit, just trying to do anything you possibly can to break that toe. Miranda knows that if he can break that toe, he can start to drive away, as Filippo has actually knocked that lead down by, I want to say, about a 10th since we started the last lap.
2/10 even. He's really closing in. Now closing in through Vale and Club. And I don't think that's a bad thing. We've seen a strategy in previous seasons and previous races where the leader, who, the pole sitter usually just gets off to an early lead, is able to control the pace of the race. Sometimes they'll drop it a second and save fuel. And I really often feel like the second place driver actually has the better position for the end of the race, unless the outright leader is able to get away to a 3, 4, 5 second gap like we saw in the amateur race. I feel like if you have a train of cars, you're second or third, they're in the catbird seat. They can save fuel, they can take a shorter pit stop and get back onto the racetrack sooner.
especially when you have drivers like Rico and Rubilar. They've been sitting back here in the 3rd and 4th spot, just trying to hang with them and stay in the draft, not really trying to be too aggressive, trying to pass too much, but they've just been sitting there in the tow, saving fuel, saving tires too, so they can just have a better position for themselves at the end. And really, you could throw a blanket under this top 4. They're all within 2 seconds of each other.
Bit of a spread out field this evening. There is one battle with Wayne Castile and Thomas Rayleigh down to Brooklands here in left field in a moment. And I will say this full course here at Silverstone, Zach, it's a lot, man. They did a lot of work here to the track map as a whole. We can take a look at it as these guys battle through turn number 8 at Woodcote. My most recent experience with Silverstone on iRacing has actually been with the British Sim Racers, a group that we covered through early 2022 for a few months. Glad to have spent time with them. Unfortunately, our time with them has come to an end, just not feasible at the moment with the time difference between here in the eastern seaboard of the United States and them in the UK, as Castile goes off track a little bit through Beckett's and hangs on to it. But when they ran here at Silverstone, they ran first on the the 2 short courses, the shortest of the 3 courses, the National Circuit, which actually uses Aintree into Brooklands, then Luffield, Woodcote, and Copse, then turns right at Maggots, and actually loops back into Aintree, Zach. So it's a really short course. Looks a bit like a triangle, like if you were to add just a little bit of a dongle, if you will, onto Pocono almost. It's a triangle with a little bit extra. And that's the National Circuit. That's it. Now, for the International Circuit that we covered with them, it was everything, the same paddock that we're using here this evening. Abbey and Farm were still turn 1, Village there, but then at the loop, they just kind of continued over to the Hangar Straight and had a bit of a corner in there, and that was about it. Then they wrapped back around to Stowe. So we didn't get the charm of Maggots and Beckett's here with these cars. It's good to see these guys struggling through these corners, looking for grip, trying to find what they can. And I think it's so refreshing, to me personally at the very least, as these guys work on through. This is actually through the loop now, so we'll see soon. They'll be at Maggots and Beckett's. The leaders might even be there here shortly as they work through Luffield.
The leaders, it seems like the gap just continues to close as Filippa has just been able to close that gap entirely. It's down to about half a second, and then going back to Rico, he's only about 7/10 back, and then it's another 6/10 back to Rubilar. They've all just been able to stay real close to each other, and it's pretty confident to me, at least, coming from a racing background. It's able to be able to look at it from a different perspective and say, hey, this is the type of thing where I can make a strategy call. We're just gonna sit back, we're gonna wait, and I think, don't quote me on it because I'm not one for road racing, we might be coming up on pit stops here within the next 10 minutes.
So we usually see pit stops in these races much later on in the day, and what's been weird about this season is, and JP we've seen a lot of earlier pit stops where I would have thought you could come in and kind of short stop and short pit and get the fuel in the car earlier and then run longer. It actually helps with some nose weight as well in these Porsches, being that they're rear engine vehicles. We've seen more of that early pit stop strategy, so we might see that again today. It's been 12 minutes and a little bit of change now, so the pit window is going to open up at about 3 more minutes. From about 15 minutes in to 15 minutes to go is really where we expect our pit stops in these races, so we'll see what these guys can do. Fabio Zamperlini, though, this is defending 6th place over Matthew Dench in 7th, and there was even a bit of a moment this last lap for Lucas Souza. Problems for the Aerokinetics, number 106. We'll go back and get a look at things for him. Aerokinetics, by the way, a really cool team to kind of learn about in that 24-hour race that we covered with the North American Racing League back in May. And yeah, you can see he got crossed out between Maggots and Beckett's, and the Aerokinetics number 106 goes for a spin, gets stopped on the racetrack, and has to get back rolling a long trip through the grass there and trying to get back to the race course.
Where credit is due for those drivers that were able to miss him, though, especially in a tight section such like Maggots and Beckett's.
A side-by-side battle now with what we were just watching as they work out of Woodcote and down to Copse. This is car 27 on car 283. Matthew Dench just got the spot. Now Fabio Zamperlini back on the inside into Copse.
Oh, side by side going into Maggots and Beckett's. they're clear of each other, but let's see how they go down into the hangar straight. And I got that right this time.
Well, kind of. We're now into Maggots and Beckett's here. Maggots the first couple of apexes there. Beckett's the second couple as we work through turn 13 right here, and we'll have, I guess that was turn 14 actually, back up. This is onto the hangar straight. As you can see, one car joining this fray is actually Lauren Zavadil in position number 8. We talked about the team struggles with Lawrence recently. Now SimCity Racing, his new home. And he has worked himself ahead of Scott Reister, the Pro-Am leader, somebody worth talking about for sure, as he's got a couple of positions back to Trey Drawhorn and Luann Hott, who are battling for the second position here in Pro-Am. This is a good battle here. Trey has gotten this spot recently, moved ahead of Luann, and now looks like car 395, the second best of the Pro-Am drivers, and he is on the move.
They're still very close together, and it is anybody's race still. Just going through Abbey, they're still neck and neck, really, and I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. Not close enough for a send, but definitely close enough to be able to send it a little bit on the braking, try to catch Trey, and really just be able to stick the car where you want to be able to try and put it to get that best run possible, get that good exit, and be able to just drive the car up off.
Trey started 14th, has been as low as 15th in this race, and has now worked his way into the 11th position, just one spot out of the top 10. As he tries to drive away from third place now in Pro-Am, Luann Hott. He has got some work to do to get to Scott Reister. That would be for the Pro-Am lead. But if he's able to work up to Rafael Bonifacio, maybe an easier task potentially, Trey would be able to get to the top 10. And I think he's got the speed. It's a matter of keeping the car consistently on course and maximizing the most out of the pavement here at Silverstone. He's got quite a ways to go, somewhere to the tune of 3.2, 3.3 seconds. As you can see, bottom right of the screen, the red time tracker. That is the deficit to Rafael Bonifacio, the position ahead for 10th. Let's go on board with Trey.
Windshield wiper action there.
Yeah, displaying that new mechanic here with the Porsche Cup GT3 cars, the Porsche GT3 Cup cars, I should say. We know rain is on the way at some point here on iRacing. It's not here just yet, but that windshield wiper will be rather handy whenever it comes along the way. Trey Drawhorn works on through Stowe and still has that 3 second or so deficit up ahead for 10th. But meanwhile, our leaders are getting a lot closer. Victor Miranda with pressure now from Dino Filippa. Filippa about as close as he was at any point, or as close as he has been at any point in this race, that time through Stowe, Vale, and Club, and is very close now to Victor.
Definitely a very close battle for the lead. It's just down to 3/10 coming onto the straight. You're closer to the fall. Oh my goodness, excuse me. The following car is now closer to the car in front. It's going to be a lot easier to get that toe. You're going to pull up to them a lot quicker with the draft. As you can see here, Filippa is looking. He's taking a look. He's not close enough for the send, but he's definitely taking a look, trying to get Victor Miranda just to slip up even the slightest bit. Just a little wide
through left field. That was a bit interesting.
He could have just been trying to diamond the corner so he could get a better exit and try to pull off. Let's see how they do going to the top. Still on board with Filippa, still about 2/10 to Victor Miranda going to the tops. It's going to be interesting to see how he closes up. Late on the brakes just a little bit, trying to hold a tighter apex. He does close just a little bit, now under 2/10 the gap.
Certainly as close as he has been, 1 1/2 tenth as they head down to Maggots. Ricardo Rico and Nicolas Rubilar very close behind, about a second back of Dino. And it's, at this point we're watching drivers just do work through Maggots and Beckett's. There isn't necessarily too much to hype up until they actually make that move, and you're really not going to make a move, I think. Maybe into Maggots, but not so much through Beckett's, certainly because of the sweepers before it. Stowe is your first, I guess, out of comp, Stowe is your first really good passing opportunity after the hangar straight, of course. And now, Vale has been, I think, a pretty utilitarian corner for these guys, but no opportunity yet for Dino Filippa. And at the same time, Zach, do you want to push and make this pass? Dino's able to actually save fuel right now. So does he really want to push? Does he want to use these tires up, or does he want to wait?
I think what's going on in his mentality is push Victor Miranda just a little bit. Make him know that you're there, you're present. and then be able to capitalize on the pit stops and jump him. Honestly, if Felipe wanted to make a move, he could have made it already. He could have just pointed the car a little bit straighter. Ooh, he is very close to Victor Miranda.
Bit of a lockup maybe there into Village. Victor Miranda still leading. With a different perspective now from the onboard of the back bumper, the rear bumper of Miranda's number 1, eking out an advantage onto the Wellington straight.
Felipe definitely lost a little bit of time, well, about 2/10 worth of time going in to that corner. Don't know if it was really a lockup or anything, but you can see him just trying to take tighter entries to close that gap once again. His best opportunity, if he wanted to make a pass, he could just try to point the car a little bit straighter coming out of Beckett's and then make a move into Stowe. Or, honestly, if I were him at this point, we're coming up on pit stops here in just a little bit. Just try to sit back there, save fuel a little bit. That way you don't have to put too much in for the pit stop. You can make the car lighter, you can take less of a stop, and you can jump him when it comes to getting out of pit road.
30 minutes to go here in our Pro-Am race. You saw a couple of our partners on the screen from the North American Racing League. Let's begin off with Virtual Racing School VRS, something I subscribe to myself. 4 setups on the iRacing.com service, but it's a whole lot more than just setups. They've got telemetry, they've got driver coaching videos, they've got a whole lot going on at Virtual Racing School, and if you're in any kind of way wanting to find speed on iRacing, I definitely suggest that you check out our top 2 partners here with the North American Racing League, Virtual Racing School, but also Moradness driver coaching. So much going on at Moradness. They do so much for drivers on iRacing, and it's more than just coaching, it's a whole community as well. If you want to find somewhere to fit in on iRacing, you're not quite sure where, but you want to have the opportunity for literally anything, well, check out Moradness. They've got a whole fantastic community on Discord. It's a blast hanging out with them sometimes and checking in to the various chats throughout their server. Also, Tam Livery JS Consulting, always making big things happen for this North American Racing League. Tam Livery pumping out those beautiful league ads and league graphics and things throughout the week that you see the recaps, the results and things, the points from the North American Racing League social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And JS Consulting handling a lot of the back end, handling a lot of the website hosting and website design, and they can do it for you as well. So JS Consulting, Tam Livery, a couple of great partners that you definitely have to check out, along with VRS and Moradness. This might be a move down to Brooklands, but maybe now Dino Felipe, yeah, he's going to wait, or is he? Looks down to the apex of Brooklands. No move just yet as we stay on board with Victor Miranda. It's a good time as well to talk about our partners at Pit Stop TV. Of course, Whiplash Media SimCams, SimRepMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. We're on board with the lead battle. Victor Miranda and Dino Felipe as they work through Woodcote. And we'll go down to comps. No moves out of the top 4 just yet. And your Pro-Am race leader is still Scott Reister, although he did have a bit of a moment a little while ago. Connection issues may be popping up for driver 42, and he blinked out for a little while, but came back in after a few moments. Let's hope that it's nothing too much more than that. As you can see just ahead of these guys, Fabio Zamperlini still very much in touch with Matthew Dench, and this battle is very far from over.
And Savadil is just not too far behind. He's sitting right there behind the 2 of them, and it's so close going through Maggots and Beckett's, and the battle for the lead is still heating up, Andrew.
Still nose to tail here for first and second.
Lucas
Souza bringing up the back end of the order. Thomas Rayleigh, Ryan Kerr down there as well. You see a lot of those Pro-Ams. They're way back there and not doing too much battle, although Trey Drawhorn has lost a position to Luan Hott. So Trey now down to the 13th spot, and I have to imagine that might have been brought on with a battle with Bruno DeCarmo, who has made his way through that Pro-Am field, now only behind Scott Reister in the Pro-Am class, and trying to work his way to the top 10.
One thing I've definitely noticed out of the lead battle is that Felipe just seems to be a little bit better than Miranda in really the second sector. Oh, that is so tight on the brakes. He's right there on the bumper trying to make something work. Is he going to go around the outside?
Looking for some grip, but it's just not there out of the loop.
He might be able to capitalize, though, on the exit. Let's see here.
Through Aintree and down the Wellington Straight. Is he going to have an opportunity by Brooklands? The MRW 71 staying in. Now he goes out to the inside of Brooklyn, sticks the nose in there, and that is a pass attempt, certainly, from Dino Felipe on the power. He's going to go for a slide, maybe a spin. No, he hangs onto it. Ricardo Rico goes wide. His teammate now alongside, and Nicolas Rubelar side by side for third and fourth.
Saved He just made a little bit of contact with Miranda. The car just stepped out from underneath him, and credit to all the drivers for not running into each other and just making this battle still continue. They're all still within a second of each other going through cops.
Well, that's exactly what Victor Miranda wanted out of that, was to hang on to the race lead and for Dino to slide his tires, lock his tires up, and burn them up just that little bit. That's really going to help Victor Miranda the rest of the way here. And with tire changes, oh so unlikely. We could be surprised by a few drivers, but we shouldn't see any tire changes today as per usual. That's really going to make things tough on Dino Filippo the rest of this race. Deeper in the Pro-Am field, we want to talk about a couple of drivers moving positions if we can, as these guys work into Stowe. Here's Luen Hott, Trey Drawhorn, and Mitchell Johnson battling for 12th, 13th, and 14th. Trey has lost that 12th spot that we talked about earlier, which was second in class. Really, it was 11th. And Bruno De Carmo worked by all of these guys and got into the 11th spot himself and has been setting sail from there. But now these guys battling for second in Pro-Am. Again, Drawhorn lost that spot, is trying to get it back.
Drawhorn is just trying to make sure that he can stick the car exactly where he needs it to be, just trying to stay right there behind the 270 and just make sure that he can capitalize when it comes down to pit stops here pretty soon.
Mitchell Johnson also here, as Dino Filippo back within 2/10, almost within 2/10, about 3/10 from him to race leader Miranda. Oh, so close.
Just that wider apex, trying to capitalize on exit. Straight line speed is so much better when you're capitalizing on exit. As they always say, slow in, fast out.
Roger Resende also in picture there on his own. Teammates with Miranda. We've gone past halfway, Zach, just about 30 seconds ago. No pit stops yet. Not a single driver has hit pit lanes at the start of the race when two drivers, both Bruno De Carmo and Thomas Rayleigh, started from the pit lane. Nobody has been to the pit since. This has been a very, very clean race. A bit of a smaller field, so that's part of it. There's more racing room and fewer cars to hit, but a very mistake-free race for most of this field.
I think you know about as well as I do. You never want to be the first car to pit. And Victor Miranda is at a bit of a deficit when it comes to pit stops. Every single car sitting in the train directly behind Miranda is being pulled by the car in front of them. They're having draft, they're having pickup, they're going to be able to run faster laps being in that draft. Miranda is going to, he's really not in a draft. He's pulling everyone for himself. It's just going to be difficult, I think, when pit stops finally come down. I think Miranda is just trying to be the last one to pit out of this group of four.
Ricardo Rico out a little bit wide out of Stowe. Into Vale, and there we go, a pit stop. And that was Nicolas Rubelar peeling off in car 77. He'll come down the pit lane. So the first of the bunch is one of the Arnage competition Porsches. And Nicolas will, I think he took the lead for a moment and gave it right back in the pit lane, of course, but a very fast pit entry here at Silverstone as car 77 comes in for service.
It always scares me seeing these cars come into pit road. No ABS. It's so easy to lock it up. You got to make sure you hit that pit speed limit. We don't want to see any penalties. We're going to see a quick stop here out of Rubelar.
Switch for the race lead. Victor Miranda finally gives way to Dino Filippo. Now, this is important to note. Last few seasons, Andre Melchers gave up the race lead right as he came up to pit. As soon as he lost the race lead, he would come in and pit, get back out there, and somehow reassume the race lead. I don't know how he would do it, but Andre Melchers had things figured out. Actually, I think it might have been, no, the other way around. He would always sit and wait for the opportunity to pass. So more so like Dino Filippo. Victor Miranda, I think, just made a slip up. We'll go back and take a look at this. I had the right concept, but the other way around, Zach. Andre Melchers would wait in second place, then make the pass, and then commit, and then come in and pit, and then go back out there and take the race lead. This is going to be a classic setup, it looks like, from Dino for this spot.
It's just been a lockup.
Into the loop. Victor just tried to get the arch, and a bit of contact.
Just a little bit, not too much. He had the right to the line, and he was able to capitalize on it, and Dino Filippo, is your new race leader.
21 minutes and 30 seconds to go. A little bit of change.
Do we see any pit stops come this time around, though?
Oh, I would expect so. I would expect at least a couple more. Lucas Souza also pitted that lap along with Nicolas Rubelar. Nicolas has moved into the 14th spot just behind Mitchell Johnson. And it looks like neither of our two leaders will pit. Does Ricardo Rico? Not quite. How about Roger Resende maybe? Nope, he'll stay on the race course. Matthew Dench potentially. No, none of these guys yet.
Seems like they all just want to try to stay out and stretch it a little bit more. And as much as I applaud the effort, at the same time...
Oh, here comes Rafael Bonifacio into the pit lane. Worth mentioning, Scott Reiser has driven back up to Lauren Zavdiel, Fabio Zamperlini, and Matthew Dench. I think the tires on the 283 starting to give out. Mitchell Johnson also on the pit lane in car 21.
See a couple of Pro-Am drivers really starting to take to the pit road entrance.
Wayne Castile. Ryan Kerr. They're all coming in now. Here comes, actually no, Thomas Rayleigh will not pit just yet. I thought he was, but he will stay out on the racing course. A very small margin here between our race leaders, although they have just swapped spots, Dino Filippa and Victor Miranda, that previous lap.
Miranda is still holding strong with Rico just sitting back there, only about 7, maybe 6/10 back from Miranda. I'm kind of shocked that they really haven't decided to go to pit road yet.
We'll head down to Cops. I would imagine this lap or the next lap, we're getting to the range where they come in, and really at any time. It's usually from about 20 minutes to 15 minutes to go in this race that we see most of the leaders pit. It depends on what lap it is exactly, especially at the racetrack and how long the laps might be. But here at Silverstone, clocking in at 2:03s just about. Formula One can do 123s here. These guys a far cry from those laps, about 40 seconds off, but still fast laps here at Silverstone as we work down to Stowe this time. Bit of a defense there from Dino Filippa, but no opportunity really for Victor Miranda to make a pass just yet, and I really don't think he wants to anyways. He's saving fuel right now behind Dino. Why stick out of that draft as they will fly by the pit entry and not pit this time?
Seems like every lap you say they might just go to pit road. They just want to keep staying
Oh yeah,
out.
that's the theme.
Lap.
Here
Oh, we got
comes
more cars
Fabio
coming in.
Zamperlini, Duck Hawk Racing.
That would be, what, the second or third pro car that's decided to come to pit road. We got another one coming in right behind them.
And he'll be joined by... Actually, didn't quite catch who that was. Oh, that was Bruno De Carmo. His name will not pop up on our graphics, unfortunately, but Bruno De Carmo for Texaco Racing by TK comes on in. And car 66 will get service. Oh, Fabio Zamperlini, that killer overshot on the pit box. Did it cost him a few seconds?
That is going to be detrimental. Usually we've seen the average pit time. It's just a little bit on that margin. It's going to be definitely close.
It's a bit faster than Nicolas Rubelar, but the lane time is what's going to get him. The pit box time itself, it was faster than Nicolas here, but the pit lane time was slower.
Definitely just got him. It's the hot tires, Andrew. You come into the pit road, you're trying to capitalize.
Lack
as much
of ABS
as you
too.
possibly can. Absolutely. You just got to make sure you can do everything you can. Maybe back it up just a little bit, trail brake a little bit in the pit road. It's all about just trying to make sure you do not slide past that box. And unfortunately for Fabio Zamperlini, it happened to him.
As pit stops really kick off here, here's a battle again in the Pro-Am category. Louette Hott, Trey Drawhorn. Nicolas Rubelar was behind both of these guys, has passed both of them now. This is tentatively for second place in Pro-Am. Drawhorn starting to fall back as the tires give way. He made that pass we saw on Louette Hott and has now lost that position. It's difficult when tires wear out, Zach, to keep making those passes and to hang on to spots. If you have somebody that's just saved even a little bit more rubber than you, it's very easy to give that spot up. It's just so tough to defend on old tires.
Absolutely. In these later stages of the races, it just gets so difficult as our leaders take another pass by pit road. They are extending this run as much as they possibly can. And, you have to imagine these tires are just taking the wear and tear. And it just keeps... It keeps making it a lot more difficult to keep the car underneath you when you're trying to make a pass. And, you just got to worry about maybe being a little more defensive than aggressive this late in the run.
Here comes Louette Hott now to the pit lane. Will leave Trey Drawhorn on the racing course on his own. So pitting out of that battle. Louette comes in. Looks like no other car is really coming in behind him. So he'll pit on his own here, and when he goes back onto the racetrack, Zach, that means he's going to be mostly on his own as well, which is sometimes tough to do. Sometimes it's tough to not have that reference to get back into a braking zone, and also really tough to not have draft help.
At the same time, it's a benefit for the car following. Say the car following is faster, you're checking up more, you're just trying to make sure that you don't run into the car in front of you. Now you have that open racetrack to be able to try and really get more of a run and actually try to get ahead.
Oh, just Thomas Rayleigh here. Just want to mention that. Thomas Rayleigh coming to the pit lane. Go on.
Yes, it's just, driver following, it's easier for them now to be able to go on a push lap. You may hear it in Formula 1 sometimes. They may tell the drivers, all right, car in front's pitting, push lap, and then box, box, box. You just got to make sure you capitalize on all of these things that are happening. As the leaders are now going, Maggots and Beckett still within 0.2 of each other.
Zeno Filippo, Victor Miranda, nose to tail. Separated by only tenths of a second for Maggots and Beckett, and back onto the hangar straight, 15 minutes to go. I would expect they really might pit this time, as Victor's had a few chances now, a few laps to sit in this second spot and save a little bit of fuel. Into Stowe, he looks to the left side as Dino defends. Can he cross him up maybe?
I wouldn't expect to cross up. Very loose.
And they will both pit. Here we go.
Coming to pit road. Oh, this is going to be a good race off pit road. Trying to be as late on the brakes as possible. Close that gap. Miranda closes just a little bit. Let's just see how it goes as they take, I believe Rico went with them. All of the top.
Everybody pitting this time. Dino Filippo, Victor Miranda, Ricardo Rico, Roger Vicente comes in. Matthew Dench will pop down the pit lane with Lauren Zavadil, Scott Reister. This is the money lap, the money stop for everybody. As you can see, Lucas Souza back on the pit lane. Problems for him as he's finally one lap down. Pit stops. 4-hour race leaders. Dino Filippo, Victor Miranda, and others.
Rico missed his box a little bit. He had to back up.
Dench comes in. Zavadil, Reister. There goes Filippo. Barely going to get the race lead out of the pits. A 10.93 second stop. Miranda was faster, but not able to take that spot back away.
He just slid the tires coming out of the box a little bit as I believe
Rico loses third.
has jumped Rico. Yep, he just jumped him coming out of the box.
Trey Jawhorn into the pit lane. You see him there. Miguel Colon as well. Rafael Bonifacio has now pitted. Everybody has now pitted. Bruno De Carmo back on the racetrack now, right behind Scott Reister. This is going to get close. Lauren Zavadil ahead of these guys. Zavadil has all but lost. In fact, Zavadil and Reister have completely lost Zamperlini and Dench. As Reister loses that position, moves him down to 10th, and will now have to deal with Rafael Bonifacio. Reister still has a big gap back to Leon Hott for the class lead. So he's still got plenty of time, but will lose that 10th position and drop out of the top 10. So now it's perfectly sorted. All of your pros are in the top 10, and it's all pro-ams in the bottom 9.
I think Reister just decided he wasn't going to fight it too much. He's got a big enough gap. He doesn't really have to worry. He's got the victory locked up. Ooh.
And this is in that pro-am battle that we were talking about. Trey Jawhorn losing another position, this time to Mitchell Johnson. It was a great start to the day for Trey, but he's since lost 2 positions and is right back where he started in 14th overall. But he does have quite a ways back to Miguel Colon and Ryan Kerr, so might be able to stabilize here, maybe even work back on saving those tires the last 13 minutes of this race and trying to challenge late. Zeno Filippo, your race leader. Victor Miranda, second. We'll get right back to it with our race leaders now because, well, we can see they're out of the pit lane. Pit stops, that's all in our mirror. It's just these two racing straight up for 13 minutes for a race win.
They've really just extended the gap to Rubilar and Rico. They've built up about a 2-second gap to both 3rd and 4th. It's just them.
That's not much further back than Nicholas already was, but Ricardo Rico dropping that far back is a big concern. Our Naj competition is squarely out of this fight for the race lead now. They had faster stops. Both of them had faster stops than race leader Dino Filippo, and Ricardo Rico actually had the fastest stop in the top 5, almost the fastest stop in the entire field. Fabio Zamperlini's was just about equivalent, so Fabio Zamperlini and Ricardo Rico the fastest stops in the field. Yet our Naj competition just could not execute on the pit lane as a whole and lost time elsewhere, just not able to stay in this lead fight.
You can just see Miranda here. He is trying to get as tight as he possibly can in these corners, staying with Filippo. The gap is about just under 4/10, just under 3 now. And it's going to be so interesting to see how these guys do. We've got just under 12 minutes to go. And Miranda is just trying to make sure he uses these tires effectively. He's been able to run out front for most of the race. He's just a little bit of oversteer, just trying to make sure he can keep that car in rhythm. He's going to lose about 2/10 going into the old pit straight coming into top.
Miranda losing some time. It's really tough to make time back up once you lose it here at Silverstone. It is oh so tough, and having the draft down the Hanger Straight will help, on the front straight, on the Wellington Straight, but it's just sometimes not enough, and I think Victor has met his match with the tires today. Dino looks so much more stable right now.
Miranda just seems to be sliding
man,
way
he is
too
fighting
much.
it.
He is not able to keep that car straight off exit at all. He's struggling. It's like I was just saying, it's like we've been saying all broadcasts, Andrew. The tires can be effective. The track temp's gone up about 2 degrees. The air temp is down a little bit from the amateur race, and so is the wind. But the tires are still the most important thing right now. And I think Miranda was just using up his stuff up at the front.
Props to Dino, keeping the tires intact, following Victor for that entire run. Really, really solid run out of Dino today. 10 minutes to go, 10.5 minutes to go, and I don't know that there's any way now Victor can get back up there. He can cool the tires back down and try to push, but with so little time left in this race, no more pit stops to rely on. It's going to be tough as Ricardo Rico and Nicolas Rubelar swap positions once again. Ricardo now moving back into the third spot, and that switch in turn one. Oh, that was a bit sideways there out of Rico.
It was very, very close.
Let's go on board with Bruno De Carmo into the 9th position, now chasing down Lauren Zavadil. Zavadil and Zamperlini both lost touch with Dench. Zavadil really lost time, but that opens up the possibility for Bruno De Carmo to make up more positions. Really, really big comeback here for car 66.
I think looking down on the Pro-Am, Hot has lost 3 positions. 4 now, falling back to 16th.
He has lost connection currently. He might come back in, but looks like potentially losing connection as a whole, dropping to the 18th spot now, only ahead of Lucas Souza, who has been parked for some time. What that does is promote Mitchell Johnson to 2nd in class, Trey Drawhorn in 3rd, and that actually creates a really big battle for these guys. Battling for the 2nd and 3rd spots in class, and also a chance to talk to us after the race. And oh, well, there you go. Luen comes back in right in front of these guys, so no longer for 2nd and 3rd, now for 3rd and 4th.
Just a bit of a connection issue there, I assume, and I don't think this is going to take away from any of the competitiveness here. They're still all very, very close together, as Johnson and Drawhorn are just nose to tail going into cops. They've been battling for, I want to say, a few laps now, really.
Battling out of cops, down to maggots. Luen Hot, another connection issue. Let's go on board with Trey Drawhorn and see just how big of a deal this is when these guys have that driver drop out in front of them and kind of affect this battle. You know, it really affects, actually, Mitchell Johnson getting a draft in the Hanger Straight. He no longer has that draft, but Trey will.
Trey's going to be able to close the gap now. It's like you see in Formula 1. It's a little bit different. Sometimes it's been referred to as a DRS train, a draft train. The cars just get into a bit of a train, and they're able to pull each other, and there's not really much passing to be done. The car in the tail is getting pulled by the car in front of them, and the car in front of them is getting pulled by the lead car, so it's hard for any driver to really close up as the wind has just popped back up in front of this group. Ooh, Drawhorn just gets over
That's
the
really
sausage
gonna hurt
curve.
him, yeah. Might not do any damage to that car, but that just kills his run that lap and really hurt his lap time. That last lap was a 205.5 versus the 205.0 that Mitchell Johnson turned. So we lost a half second, I feel like, in that last corner alone. That was really big for Trey, hopping that sausage curve. Further ahead, Rubelar and Rico still nose to tail. This is for 3rd and 4th. Oh, and Bruno De Carmo and Lawrence Zavadil might have a move into Brooklands. No, but he is there and really could try and pass at any point, Zach.
Very, very close.
Cops
He's
maybe.
right there on the nose. It's going to be tricky. He might be able to get a run going in the cops and set him up for Maggots and Beckett's, but it's definitely going to be tricky. Like you said, passing and gaining
Here we
back
go.
ground. Oh,
He's going to have an opportunity in cops.
He's
He
taking the
thought
line.
about it, but he lifted.
Ah, that's smart. That's smart. You can set it up. Just try to get that exit, maximize it. Watch those track limits, though.
Rafael Bonifacio, Scott Reister just behind these guys. As Bruno continues to work on Lawrence Zavadil. Lawrence has recently come into his own as one of the better drivers in this field as a whole. and showing why he's been promoted up to the pro category. He's not racing for wins anymore, but I think he easily could be by the end of the season, and certainly by next season of Porsche Cup racing, if there is one. He has really become a proper Porsche Cup driver. No Tony Kanaan in the field this week, but Bruno De Carmo, his teammate, one of his drivers for Texaco Racing by TK, doing a fantastic job in this battle. Is worked up from starting from the pit lane, not getting a qualifying attempt in. Started 18th today. Zach is up into 9th and working on 8th.
Really a stellar run. And it's always nice to see drivers coming from the back. As I think we're going to have a move here in the Abbey.
No, Rafael thinks better of it. I think a good move to sit back and wait right now, especially given where an Alfa Romeo ended up at a battle at the Turn 1 at the beginning of the Formula 1 race here. You don't want to end up in that catch fence, and here we go. A look there from Bruno De Carmo into Village and now into the loop. Lauren Zavadil is going to have the inside, but has to back that corner up. Bruno around the outside. Near contact there. Bruno gets back to the power sooner, is going to have the run through Aintree, and yes, Bruno takes the spot.
Zavadil just kind of saw the run coming. He gave up that inside line. He could have easily defended. We're going to have another move. Bonifacio just took that look. He wasn't going to be able to do it, and Zavadil covers the spot, and that really affected Bonifacio.
Oh, Lawrence!
Big send!
I don't think he was trying to send it, but he sent it there into left field, nearly got into the back of Bruno De Carmo. Thankfully, no contact, and these guys will all spread out and scatter a little bit. Trey Drawhorn working there we go, on Mitchell Johnson. And it looks like finally Lewin Hott maybe has lagged out of this race, has dropped connection. So these guys are properly fighting for second and third in class.
I think that's just all Reiser wants to see. He has an 11-second lead over the two of them, and the more they fight, the more he locks up this victory for the Pro-Am.
2 weeks in a row, potentially. I talked with him last week after winning at Phillip Island, and said we'd talk to him here. We had high expectations, and that's worked out so far, but we'll knock on wood for him just a little bit as these two fight for second and third in Pro-Am. Through Maggots, Trey Drawhorn had to back up a lot, now pressuring through Beckett's.
It did not help that Johnson just slipped up coming through Beckett's onto the entry. He just took a bit of a wider entry, and it really affected him on exit.
Honestly, sometimes making a mistake in a rhythm section like that as the lead cars. Here we go. A move in stow. Trey Drawhorn up the inside, and that is going to stick for now, but can he get the spot? I think so.
They might be side by side. They are side by side in the last two corners.
Not over yet. Side by side down to Vale. Johnson takes the control back at the apex. Pops that curb and gets back through in the Vale chicane. Nose to tail now, still second and third. As I was going to say, it's sometimes beneficial as the lead car to make a mistake in those rhythm sections like Maggots and Beckett's and actually park it and slow that second player, the car behind you down. Sometimes it gets them more out of their rhythm than you. So it can actually benefit you sometimes, like you saw from Mitchell Johnson that last lap, to make a mistake out of Maggots and into Beckett's. It actually backs that car up and messes them up further. It just kind of worked out for him.
One thing, I know you can relate to this because you've seen it, I've seen it. It's, oh, we've got him off track. That is Johnson just off into the grass there.
He's got to hope he's not hitting the incident limit.
Let's just hope not. One thing I was bringing up was on your point. You and I have both seen it in short track racing. Cars just trying to get the spot, and so they don't have to deal with that bumper. They will just take the tightest possible way through the corner and park it right on that apex to block any form of run, so that way they can just keep that spot and move forward.
If you're joining us for the first time this evening, check out our social media pages: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. We broadcast to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We put social media updates out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Links there on the bottom of your screen. And by all means, check it out as we get down to the final 2.5 minutes here at Silverstone, round number 4 of this championship. Dino Filippo leading by quite a lot up ahead. Victor Miranda has lost now 4 seconds to him. We might have a battle for second up there soon, as this is the battle for second in Pro-Am competition. So this is a very important battle as far as points go. And Scott Reister is well clear of these guys. Now 13 seconds to this battle is your Pro-Am leader, Scott Reister. Trey Drawhorn, that silver car, now looks to the inside for Vale. He's going to get alongside and make the move, and he's got the spot, but not just yet. Don't count your chickens before they hatch, and look at that. gets pushed back out wide a little bit and loses that spot once again. It's so tough to pass here at Silverstone. Trey, I think, has got better tires. He's got the better car right now, but he's got to find a place to make the pass.
Ricer is just sitting, cruising, leading the Pro-Am division, just sitting there saying to himself, I hope these guys just keep on battling. It's turning into a really fun battle for second.
Further ahead, Victor Miranda lost a lot of time the last few laps. He's back here now with Ricardo Rico and Nicolas Rubelar. It looks like tires just not falling off for race leader Dino Filippa. Roger Resende is actually closing in on these guys. So you've got a team sandwich of Energy Sim Sport and Arnage Competition, 2nd through 5th. Matthew Dench for 5-Star Motorsport is in 6th position, comes across the line and begins the penultimate lap here at Silverstone. Lawrence Zavadil still just behind Bruno De Carmo and ahead of Rafael Bonifacio and Scott Reister. Mitchell Johnson, Trey Drawhorn, they battle once again, but no move. As they are, they are 13 seconds behind Zavadil and Bonifacio and others. Some big gaps here at Silverstone. It's Reister. He gets by Lawrence Zavadil. Problems for the 24 car.
Zavadil lost about 2 spots there.
Yeah, lost spots to Bonifacio and Reister.
Maybe just a lockup or just too wide through one of the corners.
Ricardo Rico, a potential move here on, no move just yet. That was through Vale, but an opportunity on Victor Miranda here as we begin the final lap at Silverstone. 1 lap to go. White flag is out, presented by Whiplash Simcams. Here's 2nd place across the line, Victor Miranda. And you can see Roger Resende has also caught Nicolas Rubelar. So battle's now in the top 5 overall. Ricardo Rico putting pressure on.
Rico is just sitting there trying to make sure that he can lock up a 2nd spot. But I think Victor Miranda is just trying to hang on to that podium position, knowing he could have potentially had a win under his belt.
Nicolas Rubelar defending over Roger Resende as Miranda exits Aintree squarely ahead of Ricardo Rico. Mitchell Johnson, Trey Drawhorn battling for 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am. Drawhorn going to have an opportunity into Copse. He looks to the inside. He puts his car there and is going to have the inside line for Copse. Johnson on the outside of the Miradis 21 hangs on to it.
I think you meant Abby there,
Andrew. That was Abby, you're right. See, again, they look so similar. With the paddock on the left side, a very similar corner at the end. That was turn 1 at Abby. They drive so similarly. Dino Filippa, he is now into Copse. There we go. And works on through for the final time. Victor Miranda 2nd, then Ricardo Rico, Nicolas Rubelar, Roger Resende. No changes. So we'll go back to our 2nd place battle in Pro-Am. This is into Brooklands.
There's still no snow. Looking up the inside. Not there yet. Can't get it done. Johnson just covers the spot.
Hard
they
sit
are
in left field.
Scale. Trying to make sure he can capitalize on the exit. Going down. The old pitch.
We're going to have an opportunity, I think. We might have an opportunity into Copse. Trey Drawhorn looking now to the left side. Is he going to look to the right? He is going to look to the right. He is going to put that car on the inside for Copse. Can he fill that space? No. Dino Filippa, meanwhile, headed down to Vale for the final time today. He's got a big gap back to 2nd place in Dino Filippa. Victor Miranda, rather, is Dino Filippa, is going to come around through Club and wrap up a spectacular day here at Silverstone. Sat 2nd place for so long, but will come across the start-finish line and get a race win in round number 4. The rest of your top 5 comes across the line. Energy Sim Sport and Arnage Competition. Rafa Bonifacio and Bruno De Carmo battling here. No change of position as Mitchell Johnson right on the inside. That was Trey Drawhorn. Contact there. Johnson's going to go off course. And while it's a position for Trey Drawhorn, you have to imagine that could be a penalty after this one. And Drawhorn actually has gone off the course and is stopping. This is sportsmanship.
This is just sportsmanship at its finest. He knows he messed up. He knows he's made a mistake, and he's just going to give that spot back up. But at the same time, I don't think Johnson's going to be too happy about it. It still cost him 3 spots, and that's going to put, that's going to change up the podium a little bit.
That's going to change up the Pro-Am results entirely. Miguel Colon goes on through to 2nd. Ryan Kerr goes 3rd. That is huge for Ryan Kerr, the points leader in Pro-Am, and it is a last lap penalty for Trey Drawhorn, dropping him down to the 17th position. So yeah, at that point, go ahead and give kind of the tip of the cap and let that guy go back on go back on ahead after the contact. Really big stuff, really big drama there on the final lap here at Silverstone. Let's go through our unofficial race results for round number 4. And Zach, you can see here our pro top 10.
Filippo just decides he wanted to make sure he could get past Victor Miranda, and he was able to lock up that victory, especially on a good pit stop. And Victor Miranda locking up the second spot. Ricardo Rico, Nicholas Rubilar, Roger Resende, Matthew Dench, and Fabio Zambrolini, Bruno De Carmo, Rafael Bonifacio, and Scott Reiser taking your Pro-Am victory and being the only Pro-Am car to finish inside the top 10.
A big win there for Scott Reiser, able to put himself back in the top 10 just behind Rafael Bonifacio and Bruno De Carmo. Finishing 11th today, it is Lawrence Zavadil in car 24 for SimCity Racing, well ahead of Miguel Colon, the second place finisher in Pro-Am. Crazy how things turned out there with Mitchell Johnson and Trey Drawhorn. Really unfortunate for both of those drivers. A lot of time lost. Miguel Colon will go 12th, as I said, then Ryan Kerr, Mitchell Johnson. Wayne Castile makes it back into the top 15 ahead of Thomas Rayleigh and Trey Drawhorn. And you can see Luan Hott and Lucas Souza with early exits today here at Silverstone go 18th and 19th, respectively. Now, as we mentioned earlier, guys, for those of you that are not as strong or cannot speak English, no worries. And seriously, no worries. I know we've got a big grab bag of drivers from all across, really, both Americas, North and South America, and even some Australian drivers. So if you are not strong in English, no worries. Let us know. Send us a message on Discord if you can, or even in the YouTube chat to let us know that maybe you can't have a full interview with us in English, but you can still, and I know this might be, preaching to the choir or preaching to guys that might not understand me, but if teammates, or if you relay to your teammates that maybe we can't interview them in Portuguese or Spanish tonight, they can at least connect and kind of have their moment and have a statement in their language for their fans that are watching this evening. But we can't have a full interview. JP's not here. We don't have a Portuguese or Spanish speaker. So apologies and for any inconvenience that may bring. But while we have this opportunity here, Zach, let's go ahead and bring in our Pro-Am race winner. I had the opportunity to talk to him last week at Phillip Island. So Zach, here is your Pro-Am race winner, Scott Reister.
Sir, you put pretty much a masterclass for the Pro-Am. You were able to really dominate. You stretched out a really good lead. Just kind of walk us through how your race went and how everything just turned out in your favor tonight.
Hello?
Do you got me?
Yes, I didn't hear the first part.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Little technical difficulties. Basically, I just wanted to see how your race went. Really, you were able to get out to a dominating lead. I believe you were at about a 14-second gap to the second place car towards the end of the race, and you just pretty much put on a spectacular performance for the Pro-Am division. Just kind of walk us through how everything went. You managed to get a top 10 overall. Just kind of walk us through the race strategy and how everything really just went in your favor.
First off, I put a lot of laps in for this race and had coaching from both Gustavo Ariel and Pasquales from VRS, and they helped me a lot. I was struggling when I first got on this track, and with those two coaching me, it really helped a lot. So I qualified well. I had a couple of pros behind me that I kind of let go once the race got started, and then tried to get into a bubble and just run some laps.
You definitely moved out of Struggle Town and into Victory Lane tonight for the Pro-Ams. Anything really regarding pit strategy and when you really decided it was time to take that pit stop towards the end of the race and just be able to really stretch that lead even further?
The lap times were getting quicker at before the pit stop, so I decided to stay out because I didn't want to. The car felt good riding behind those guys, so I just did whatever they did, and I was going to stay with them coming out. So. The strategy kind of played out. I mean, I was just running my own race, basically. So.
I guess Zach is having some technical difficulties there, but Scott, I mentioned at Phillip Island last week, we had kind of high expectations after a win at Phillip Island. You go and you double up 2 weeks in a row. Do you feel pretty good about Montreal next week?
I haven't been on that track in a Porsche Cup car. I liked it in the GT3, so we'll see. I'm just ecstatic from my performances lately, considering all the bad luck I've had lately. So I have been this season actually putting in the hours of practice, unlike the past 2 seasons where I've been just mainly doing league stuff instead of actually practicing. So with the help of all the guys at VRS and Gustavo, it's paid off. So
it definitely seems to have, with 2 straight race wins here. This is definitely, I think, putting the efforts that we've seen for Scott Reister exactly where they belong in victory lane. Congratulations this evening, Scott. We'll talk to you hopefully next week in Canada.
All right. Thank you, guys. Great broadcast.
It was definitely a great day of racing here at Silverstone, and Scott ends up on top of it all, at least in Pro-Am. A really solid effort from Team 42 this evening. We'll go on down to second place finisher Miguel Colon, and checking the region here out of New England, I believe he can speak English with us, so we're going to give it a shot. And Miguel, do you have a copy?
Yes, I copy.
Well, Miguel, it was a fantastic effort for you this evening, but it didn't look like you were going to finish on the podium. What happened those last 2 laps? Did you see anything?
So I know that Mitchell that was running from me with Trace Drownhorn, they had a very tight fight, like 3 corners. The one that is before the pit entry, that is the big open right. They kind of were side by side touching a little bit, and then one of them lose the control of the car, and then I think Trace decided to stop waiting for him. So, and I know I was kind of close to them, so I just kept going, you know.
Well, Miguel, it was, I think, a pretty good way to end the day, even if it was a bit by surprise in the final couple of corners. How do you feel about Montreal next week?
I think it's going to be a challenge track, you know, with the different bumps and how tight the track is, and those walls are going to be kind of tricky. You know, and then, you know, I hope to get good results like today. I think I did a pretty decent qualifying. Unfortunately, I got bumped in the back before turn 1, you know, be able to recover and finish P2. I think is a pretty decent result after all the effort that we put in today.
I would definitely have to agree. I'd actually forgotten about what happened in turn 1, lap 1 for you. So a really big comeback today, Miguel. Congratulations on that. We'll hopefully talk to you next weekend in Canada.
Thank you. Thank you very much for you guys for the stream, and also for my team, Team PR from Puerto Rico. My sponsor, Don Sergio Matching Shop. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, and that's Miguel Colon. Thanks for his time this evening. Car 87, not quite going to victory lane, but it's pretty darn close to it, Zach. Let's bring in now race winner Dino Filippa, and actually, I don't see Dino. We do see Ricardo Rico, so we'll begin off with Victor. And Victor, hopefully you can understand a little bit. We don't have JP this evening. By all means, go ahead and tell us how your race went.
My race was so hard, man. I chose the 4-wing on this car, on this race, and my mid-final race was so hard. The car was so oversteering, and well, I don't know, but I did the wrong choice, and that's it. It's so hard, but the pole position was made.
Well, Victor, you led the whole first half of the race. What happened there with Dino, with the battle that you guys had, and then the pit cycle as well?
I don't know. The battle was so fair, but was a touch on turn 3, turn 4. I don't know. But on the final race, Dino's car was so fast, and my car is oversteering, but the traction don't have the traction needed to approach him. So just finish the race, and that's it.
And we go to kind of a street course, road course hybrid next week at Montreal. What do you do to prepare for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve? It's going to be in the mornings, maybe cooler temperatures. Is that going to help you guys?
Yes. Cool temperature is better than on this car, and we will go to try the pole position, the win, as always. But I don't know. Gino was so fast, Ricardo Rico and Rubilar, so we will try, but I don't know what I expect.
Well, Victor, it's still a pretty good result this evening. P2 at Silverstone. Congratulations there, and we'll talk to you hopefully next week at Montreal.
Thank you, Andrew.
Victor Miranda, a solid effort this evening here at Silverstone. We'll move on now to our race winner. Dino Felipe has connected, so we'll get him. And Dino, we can't do Spanish or Portuguese tonight, but by all means, go ahead and tell us how your race went.
Hola chicos, ¿cómo andan? Bueno, voy a hablar en español. Nada, comentar cómo fue mi carrera. La verdad que sorprendió un poco la diferencia de Víctor en la quali. Y salí a carrera con poca confianza de poder aguantarlo. Lo aguanté, yo sabía que iba a poder tener un plus al final de la carrera porque iba un poquito más cargado. Así que nada, lo aguanté todo lo que pude y en una que hubo un poquito de espacio me tiré, lo pude pasar y bueno, después de la parada en box, no sé si fue por las gomas o por los incidentes, pero se fue muy para atrás en el ritmo Víctor y bueno, me quedó solamente terminar la carrera.
Well, congratulations for the race win, Dino. I'm not sure if you can pick up on a few things or not, but congratulations, and we look forward to talking to you hopefully next week at Montreal.
Dale, muchas gracias. Vamos a esperar la próxima fecha a ver cómo se nos da. Y nada, manda un saludo a todos los chicos del Discord, a ustedes por el campeonato que están organizando y a los chicos de Auris, mi equipo.
Thank you once again, Dino, and congratulations. And he wraps up a pretty big win here this evening at Silverstone. We ended up going for 25 laps, and it looks like the two of them led exactly 12 each. So I think there was that one lap in the middle where Nicolas Rubelar pitted early, got that lap, led Zach. Kind of interesting how they split the laps led this evening exactly perfectly between themselves. But a really good night of racing here at Silverstone, and it just adds to the season that we've had so far. Now, checking in, we've had exactly half of the season. So we have Okayama, Austin, Phillip Island, Silverstone in the books, just Montreal, Indianapolis, Suzuka, and Bathurst to go. And as we've talked about so far this season between JP and I, these are all, or have all hosted, world-class racing, Formula One racing at some point, or at least early versions of Formula One Grand Prix. For example, Bathurst actually has hosted the Australian Grand Prix, so has Phillip Island, even before they were Formula One sanctioned. So it's kind of interesting how we have a very overbearing Formula One feeling here, especially in these, well, this evening here at Silverstone and the next 3 weeks. Canada, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the old US Grand Prix at Indianapolis, and the current Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka International Racing Course. Very much an F1 feel here. It's been quite interesting with these Porsche Cup cars.
Absolutely, and I'm honestly excited to see the Indianapolis racing. You don't usually see Porsche racing, even IRL, when it comes to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So to kind of see the diversity with the schedule, it's just going to be exciting to see how the racing goes forward. As you know, like you said, we're about the halfway point and moving forward. I'm excited for that finale at Bathurst too. I haven't seen a lot of racing at Bathurst, and hopefully I can see a lot more of it coming soon with this North American Racing League.
You know, I talk about the overbearing feeling of Formula One here, where Okayama used to host Formula One. Circuit of the Americas still does. Phillip Island and Bathurst used to host the Australian Grand Prix, and then of course Silverstone through Suzuka. Those are all current or former venues. But there is a very large variety. I'm glad you said the word variety in there. A very large variety of racing circuits in this grouping, and some might all have, well, they don't all have S's, but it seems like they all have some kind of S's, or at least the first third of the schedule did, and you know, there's themes maybe within, but this is a very diverse group of racetracks. Okayama, Austin, Phillip Island, Silverstone have all been very, very different. And Montreal, basically a street circuit, onto what's almost a roval at Indianapolis, then a very much purpose-built Formula One racing course at Suzuka, and then Bathurst, which is up a mountain, up and over and back down a mountain in Australia. 4 very diverse races to go in this schedule. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how these rest of these summer races go for the North American Racing League Porsche Cup season number 2. But that will do it as far as coverage this evening from Silverstone. Zach, how do you wrap things up? What are your final thoughts leaving here?
Looking forward, to be perfectly honest, I'm just pumped for Montreal, pumped to see how they're going to handle the Wall of Champions. I think Silverstone was an incredible circuit to put on the schedule, and it produced probably some of the best racing I've seen in maybe a couple of weeks on the service. I'm sure you and I both enjoyed that battle for the lead, and honestly, I can't wait to see what's next.
Very much looking forward to seeing where the rest of this season goes. Before we go, let's cue you into some upcoming Pit Stop TV broadcasts as we talked about earlier. This Sunday evening, it's the MPI Cup Series at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Wednesday, it's the Outlaws Sim Series at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And next Thursday, of course, we have Circuit Gilles Villeneuve up next for the North American Racing League. 3 great broadcasts coming up next week before we, of course, keep on going, keep recycling this cycle of races. These are 3 fantastic leagues. We see fantastic racing each night of the week that we cover these guys, and I'm excited for what's to come.
As always, you can follow us, Pit Stop TV, on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All the socials linked down there on your screen at the bottom. Don't be afraid to subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook for all the racing updates, live action. If you can't tune into the broadcast, you can always tune into Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to see live social media updates from every single race that we do. And credit to Emerson for just being on it with social media tonight.
It's been a lot of fun here at Silverstone, but of course we do have to wind things down, and things must come to an end. Before we go, though, let's give a big shout out to our partners here with the North American Racing League. Of course, Virtual Racing School, VRS, Moradness, Tam Livery, and JS Consulting, all doing so much for this series. And our partners here at Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media, SimCam, SimRapMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, all doing so much for us, allowing us to cover these sim racing leagues week in, week out, sometimes day in, day out. It was a good night of racing here. Glad Zach was here to share this experience with me, but we do hope that JP is back next week. We always love having JP around, especially for those Portuguese viewers. But Zach, thanks for filling in this evening. You did a fantastic job. And Emerson Arden holding things down on social media as per usual. It's been a lot of fun. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV, but things do have to come to an end. Congratulations to our race winners in the Pro-Am race, Nino Filippa and Scott Reister. Jobs well done all around, but we'll see you next time at Montreal.